Sup folks, welcome to the part 10, of What If Deku Run an Orphanage. Chapter 57. Izuku decided to keep his return to the house a surprise. If only because he knew that he would get swarmed when he got home, and he really couldn't handle that. The Greenet was currently in a wheelchair, being pushed by his mother, at the gates of the house. "We're here," Inko said into the gate's intercom, alerting the Pussycats to their presence. "Understood, welcome home Izuku," Mandalay said, trying to sound as inviting as possible. The gates opened, and Inko wheeled her son through them. It was all going peacefully until they got to the front door, and found Kyoko waiting for them. The little girl had heard the gates open and wondered who could be entering their home and why. When she saw her father on the other side of the door, her body moved before her she could think. "Daddy!" Kyoko jumped at Izuku, landing on his lap, and wrapping her arms around his waist. OPH. Izuku felt the girl impact him and broke out into a coughing fit. "It's nice to see you too, Kyoko." "Ugh. But Daddy's still not feeling too well." Kyoko didn't seem to hear this and continued to hug him, sobbing heavily into his shirt, wetting it with her own tears, until a black tendril picked her up and pulled her off him. "Okay, that's enough." Fu walked up to them, using Kyozai to keep Kyoko in the air and cover her mouth so she didn't alert the others. "Thank you, Fu," Izuku told his first son with a smile. Fu nodded, his face expressionless as always, but if you looked in his eyes you could see just a bit of joy at seeing Izuku again. "Glad to see you, Dad." "You too, Grandma." Inko gave him a warm smile. "Fu, I'm happy you've been doing well. And your quirk has changed." "No, this is Kyozai. He's another one of your grandkids," Fu said, pointing at the black tendril. "He's a baby that lives inside me and eats my organs. Say hi to Grandma Kyozai." Another tendril came out of Fu and waved at Inko. "Oh hello dear." Inko had absolutely no idea how to take that, so she figured that she would just process it later. "We should get you upstairs before everyone else finds you here and swarms you," Fu said as more tendrils came out of him, grabbing Izuku from his chair, before the boy jumped from the first floor to the next, making the way to the top of the house. MMM. Meanwhile, Kyoko was still struggling in Kyozai's grasp. "We'll let you go later, just wait till we get Dad into bed," Fu told her. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Inko, Nara, Ken, Atoko, and of course Fu and Kyaku, latter of whom was on Izuku's bed with him, hugging his side very tightly. "It's good to see you back, Izuku." Nara gave him a polite bow and a kind smile. "Things haven't been the same without you. I'll say, everyone's been freaking out and we've had to do a dozen more chores every day," Ken complained, getting an elbow to the side from his very irritated sister. "Ow. What was that for?" Izuku sighed and gave the two a very half-hearted smile. "Thank you all for your work in helping out after Rai collapsed. I'm very proud of you all for keeping a cool head, and stepping up when you were needed. Actually, Fukanoko also helped out a lot," Fu pointed out. Izuku paused, and his eyes went wide. "Wait Fuku like our Fuku? The one that almost never leaves her room?" "The very same," Nara answered. "We were shocked too. It was the first time some of us had seen her and she was going around helping out with chores and comforting Erie and Izuku was very torn about this information. On one hand, a surge of pride flooded his body. Shy little Fuku got over her fears, and for the sake of others she went outside and helped out with the chores when she was needed. That is such a huge step for her. But on the other hand that must have been so stressful for her. He can't even imagine how scared she was, especially with all the Grimm around. And he was the one who put her in that position. Then again, maybe forcing her out of her comfort zone is what she needed. He'll have to see how this turns out later. Either way, he swallowed his guilt. He couldn't wallow, he had to keep going. I'll have to give her a really special reward. Izuku put on a smile, before turning to the Pussycats. And thank you all for coming here so quickly. I'm sorry if I disturbed your work. It's fine. We were actually on vacation anyway. Mandalay reassured him. Pixie Bob was about to say something, but Ragdoll quickly went over and covered her mouth. Yeah, it's really not a problem, Ragdoll said. With that being said, we do need to get back soon. Do you mind if we leave Kota here? He was really worried about you, Mandalay requested, giving him a bow. I'm sorry if that's too much. No, it's fine. Izuku coughed into his fist. I mean, I already have so many kids, what's one more? Mandalay giggled. I see. I guess that's one way to look at it. Well, I suppose we'll be on our way. Pussycats. Out. And with that the Pussycats waved goodbye, as they filed out of the room, closing the door behind them, leaving Izuku with his family. Inko turned to Atoko, Ken, and Nara and smiled at them. By the way, I'm Izuku's mother, Inko. It's so nice to meet you all. Oh, it's nice to meet you, too, ma'am. Nara did a stiff bow of politeness. You don't need to be so polite, dear. Inko walked over and patted her on the head. Sweet. I don't really do well with all the stiff formal stuff. I leave that to the stick in the mud. Ken smirked, pointing to his sister before he dodged an attempted punch to the arm from said sister. Nice try, dweeb. Atoko walked up to Inko, staying a good distance away but still close enough so she could see his sign language. Nice to meet you, Grandma. Inko gave him a bright smile and signed back. I'm very happy to meet you too, dear. It's been quite a while since I've used sign language, so please let me know if I say anything wrong. Atoko felt a twinge of relief at the fact that his grandmother could understand him, and signed back. No, it's perfect. Inko giggled with joy and signed back. Good, I'm relieved. All right. Izuku sighed, taking a deep breath to prepare himself for what was next. It's time to tell the other kids I'm Thump. 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 A massive thumping could be heard outside, as suddenly a huge eyeball covered the window. Dad. You're back. You're okay. Kai shouted out in his massive voice. Oh, dear. Inko, and everyone else for that matter, realized what was about to happen. Izuku winced as he could already feel the dog pile and he was not ready. Protect Dad. Fu got into a fighting stance, Kyozai covering his body as tentacles sprouted out of his back. Ken and Nara gave each other a nod, before turning down to their omnitrixes. In a flash of green and pink, Ken was replaced by 4 arms and Nara was replaced by Artiguana. And Atoko just stood there. He wasn't gonna risk setting anyone on fire, so he just sit this one out. They heard the sounds of feet banging against the floor, getting closer and closer. They're coming. Ken stood ready in front of Izuku, his arms spread out ready to catch any overeager kids. Smash. Suddenly the door flew across the room, as Kiba kicked it off its hinges. The vampire girl ran in, followed by Erie, Sansen, Shraku, Yami, Yonda, and Netsu, and when they saw Izuku they froze. Daddy. Kiba looked at her father, shocked for a moment before tears dripped down her face and she shouted. Daddy. This would be the war cry that caused all the kids to go running to try and jump on Izuku. Black Net. Fu unleashed Kyozai's tendrils, as the black inky appendages spread out, capturing Erie, Shraku, Yami, and Yonda, but Netsu and Sansen were free as they moved closer to Izuku. Narn unleashed a freezing blast, covering both Sansen and Netsu. Sansen instantly turned into a solid, completely unable to move, and Netsu was enveloped in a block of ice from the neck down. Meanwhile, Kiba and Shraku used their strength and quickly broke free of Kyozai's grasp, and went back to charging at Izuku, but they were caught midair in Ken's many arms. Hey, settle down. Ken told the two girls as they struggled in his grasp. Fortunately, Kiba was far from full power, so he was able to keep her trapped in his grip along with Shraku. The Trapped children whined and complained for a while except Sanson, who was frozen, until Fu sent out his tendrils to cover everyone's mouths. "Everyone quiet down," Fu ordered Kyozai, making him sound much more intimidating. "Dad is still not feeling great, so don't just rush at him. Be careful. Also Kiba, Truku, Netsu, you all must be very careful. Understood?" They all stopped struggling, letting out some nods and yeses until they were all eventually let go. Netsu turned up his quirk's power, quickly melting the ice around him, and drying his clothes, before moving to Sanson to thaw her out. Once that was done, all the kids gathered around Izuku, and gently climbed onto his bed, and hugged him, some of them crying onto his shirt, and Kiba unleashing a number of tears that was worthy of the Midoriya name. Sanson wrapped all around them, trapping them all in a massive group hug/dog pile. "They're there. It's okay. I'm okay." Izuku wrapped his arms around as many of them as he could and patted their heads. Inko tearfully watched this reunion on the side, wiping her eyes with some tissues she kept in her purse. She quickly realized she wasn't the only one, as she heard some sobbing near the window, and remembered that Kai was still there, unable to join because of his massive size. Feeling bad for the boy, Inko went to the window, opened it up, and pet the boy to try and soothe him. This went on for a long time. XXXXXXXXXXX. Once the tearful reunion had ended, the kids lined up in front of Izuku's bed, because he had an announcement for them. "Alright, so, do you guys remember that exercise at UA?" Izuku asked the kids, receiving nods all around from everyone but Ken and Nara. "Wait, what happened with UA?" Nara asked, surprised by the sudden bringing up of the most famous hero school in the country. "Oh right, you weren't here when that happened," Izuku realized. "So you basically does charity work with us, and invited me, and any of the kids who were interested in becoming heroes in the future, to help Class 1A in a combat exercise." "Wait. You got to go to UA, like the UA, the #1 hero school in the world?" Nara asked in slight amazement and disbelief. "And we missed it." Ken whined. "Ugh. If only we got here sooner. It was really fun. The students were all real cool," Netsu told them. Nice," Sanson added. "Well, I'm glad you think so." Izuku tensed a bit, as he looked at Kyaku. He wasn't sure exactly how they would take this, but he hoped it would go over well. "Because I was talking with Nezu and Okako." "Who's Okako?" Ken asked. He knew Nezu. Anyone who wanted to be a hero knew of the famous principal of UA, but he'd never heard of anyone named Okako. "Okako Uraraka is a hero student at UA, she's Dad's best friend," Fu answered. "And future girlfriend," Truku added. "No, she's not." Izuku's face turned red, and he broke into another coughing fit, as his mother giggled in the corner. Anyway, as I was saying, we were talking and we've come to the conclusion that since I can't work in my currency state, Okako and the rest of Class 1A will come here and act as temporary workers until I'm well enough to hire permanent workers. And I will be actually hiring people this time. I promise. The general reaction to this was positive. Most of the kids were excited to hear that someone would be helping Izuku out and voiced these thoughts very loudly. Of course, the big exception to this was Kyaku, who looked very displeased about this, but thankfully didn't object or voice her displeasure. But there was one reaction that was just off. Kiba. She just didn't seem to react much. She looked a bit happy at the news, but she seemed distracted by something. In fact, Kiba in general had been off this entire time. First off, she looked so much more unkempt since the last time he saw her. Messy hair, wrinkled, well-worn clothes, and she wasn't putting up the Queen of Eternal Darkness act she usually put up. And as was stated earlier, she just seemed distracted. After her burst of emotion from earlier, she just kept looking at his office. For some reason. Izuku didn't know what was up with that, But now that he was looking at his office door, he noticed something else. Koda. He was ashamed to admit that with all the chaos that had just gone on, he didn't notice that Koda was missing. But here he was, peeking from the other side of the door frame, glaring at him. He seemed mad about something, and Izuku could probably guess what he was mad about. However, he would have to deal with all these things on their own, later. Alright, everyone, I need you all to make sure you're on your best behavior. They'll be here for a few weeks, so don't be afraid to get to know them, Izuku instructed. Remember, these are Okako's friends, so they're to be trusted. Then, Fu raised his hand. Yes, Fu? Izuku wondered what his question could be. If all of 1A is coming here, does that mean Bakugo will also be coming? Fu asked. Ah, Izuku should have seen that coming. Suddenly the mood drastically shifted. The more Gentile children looked worried, and even slightly fearful of the notion that the person who made Izuku's life hell would be coming here and staying over here for weeks. And the more aggressive ones looked absolutely pissed. As if they were planning in their heads to ambush the blonde, the moment he stepped onto their property. That even seemingly brought Kiba back to reality, if the look of pure fury was anything to go by. Who's Bakugo? And did just saying his name made the room 100% more murderous? Ken asked awkwardly, as he and his sister had no clue who Bakugo was. Kiba and Kyaku opened their mouths to no doubt slander Bakugo to the fullest, but thankfully Fu wrapped Kyozai's tendrils around both their mouths. Bakugo Katsuki is a bully, who physically and mentally tormented Dad, along with pretty much all the other people at the schools Dad attended, Fu explained as objectively as possible. He's just a really unpleasant person, who pretty much everyone here hates. Wait, he was a bully, and he got into the hero course. Naro was taken aback, and slightly outraged at this knowledge. How? That's a very long story, that I can tell you later. Izuku sighed, feeling a headache coming on. But to answer your question, no, Bakugo will not be coming. This elected relief, happiness, and for some reason slight disappointment among the kids. Izuku could only imagine that the reason for that last one is because some of them were really looking forward to beating up Bakugo. Good. If he tried to do anything to Dad again, then we'd just have Kai sit on him again. K giggled, electing some laughs out of her siblings. That's right, I won't let anyone hurt Dad. Kai said confidently from outside. Izuku smiled slightly and shook his head. You guys ... alright. You guys should go and clean your rooms. We wouldn't want our guests to come in and see you all have messy rooms, would we? No. Cried out most of the kids, as they all left to do as Izuku told them, leaving Izuku with just his mother. Inko looked at her son and smiled. It seems things have gotten so much more lively. Yeah. Izuku smiled, then suddenly, a card fell out of seemingly nowhere onto his bed. And it just never seems to stop. Izuku picked up the card. It was handmade. A blank sheet of paper that had been folded in two, with the words, "Glad you're back." The handwriting was too good to be anyone's but Fuku's, and given where it came from he can only assume Mew had something to do with this as well. He opened it up, and inside it read as such. Hi. It's Fuku. Everyone got really sad after you overworked yourself, so please don't do it again. I'll help out more if I need to. I don't want to see Erie and sad again. So don't be afraid to rely on Fuku ... but if I mess up, please don't be too mad. And then written below that in much less impressive handwriting was what she said. And at the bottom, it said signed, Fuku and Mew. Izuku frowned and sighed. I really caused everyone so much trouble. You made a mistake, honey. Inko reminded him gently, going over and caressing his head. It's time to fix it. Yeah. Izuku said. Time to fix it. Chapter 58. Oh my god, it's huge. Mina shouted, as she, and her other classmates, stood at the front gates of the Midoriya household, most of them with their mouths agape except for the 3 rich students and the 2 others who had seen it before. Yes, it is indeed a rather large house, Ida said while chopping the air. I mean, it would have to be considering it's meant to hold all those kids, Shido added. I suppose this would be considered large for the average person. Momo didn't really have much of a frame of reference for these things. She knew her house was bigger than most people's, but if this was big enough to send most of the class into a stupor. Alright, everyone, let's go. Okako pumped her fist into the air. With fire in her eyes she ran up to the intercom on the gates. Her luggage floating next to her. Izuku. We're here. After a few moments, the gates opened up, allowing them to enter, with all their luggage in tow. Whoa. Look at that tree. Tara pointed at the grim tree with all its color-painted leaves. It's so pretty. I don't think I've ever seen a tree like that before. Momo took a closer look at it. Are those leaves fake? The kids made the leaves. Also, the tree is actually a grim, so don't do anything dumb or it will attack you. Okako warned. Bruh. It's a tree. How does it attack? Kaminari asked. As if to answer that question, an apple dropped from the tree, screaming and chopping the air with its big teeth. Rap, rap, rap. As it faded away, everyone stood silent for a moment as if to contemplate what the hell they just saw. Never mind, Kaminari said as he and a good chunk of the class moved away from the tree, walking quite a bit faster than they did before. Just gonna pretend that I didn't see that, Taru said as the rest of the class moved to catch their classmates. Before they reached the front door, it opened up, and Fu, Nara, and Ken walked out. So, you guys are from the UA Hero course? Ken squinted at them, inspecting each one of the students. I expected Mara. Nara smacked her brother in the head, before turning to Class 1A and giving them an apologetic bow. I'm so sorry about him. He's an idiot. It's an honor to meet you all. Yes, it is nice to see you all again. Fu nodded. Aw man, that kid is as monotone as ever, Kaminari commented. And still as cute. Mina giggled, suppressing her urge to glomp. Nice to see you, too little man. Kirishima said. It's great to see you again, Fu. Okako smiled kindly at the zombie boy, before turning to Ken and Nara. And you two are Ken and Nara, right? Izuku said you two were the oldest ones under his care. That's right. The name's Ken, future #1 hero. Ken boasted, as his sister rolled her eyes. Not when you have the IQ of a rock, you won't, Nara smirked, as her brother stuck out his tongue. My name is Nara, unfortunately, I'm his sister, but please don't let that lower your opinion of me. Well, you definitely act like siblings. Tsu shook her head, as she was briefly reminded of her own family's antics. It's lovely to meet the both of you. Am I to assume you're here to bring us to Midoriya? Momo asked the children. Yup, follow us, Fu said abruptly, before turning around, and walking through the door into the house, with Class A following suit. XXXXXXXXX. After a brief walk through the house, getting lots of oohs and ahs from the class as they took a trip through what was essentially a mansion, except for of course the rich kids, until they reached Izuku's office. Man, this is a pretty snazzy place to work, Kaminari said as he walked over and inspected the desk. With a nice view too. Mina went over to the window and looked outside, squealing with glee. Aw. Look. It's Kiba's backyard. Forget her backyard. We're gonna be taking care of Kiba herself. Aw, she is such a queen. Taru squealed as well. Suddenly the three kids got squeamish. I wouldn't get too excited, Ken warned them. Kiba hasn't exactly been herself. That raised some concern among the class, particularly from the ones who watched Kiba like Mina, Momo, Kirishima, Taru, Kaminari, Tsu, and of course, Okako. Even Dark Shadow came out looking concerned. What happened to the little queen? Dark Shadow asked with big sad eyes. She didn't take Izuku's collapse well, Nara admitted tentatively. And even when she recovered she didn't go back to acting the way she did before. She's more normal. But she always seems distracted by something. Even I don't know what's going on with her, Fu admitted with a slight pout. But it apostrophe s. Concerning. Mine thought about what she just heard for a moment, before giving a determined pout, and pumping her fist. I bet she's still sad because her dad is sick. We're gonna have to cheer her up. Yeah, shouted the Kiba fans in the class. Well, good luck with that, Fu said, before walking over to the door that led to Izuku's room. But first let's talk to Dad. The Zomboy opened the door, and led Class 1A inside, where they saw Izuku laying down on the bed, with a seer, and 2 Birangels at his side. Hey, guys. Izuku gave them a weak smile, before going into a small coughing fit. It's nice to see you all. Sorry I had to call you all here. I must have caused you all so much trouble. It was nothing, Okako said real quickly before she went over to Izuku's side and started inspecting him. Have you been eating enough? Sleeping too? And please tell me you haven't been moving around. The doctor told you not to be moving for at least a week after you got out of the hospital. Uh-oh, Oka's gone into concerned wife mode. Mina whispered a bit too loudly, but Okako seemingly either didn't hear her or ignored her. I'm fine. I couldn't neglect my health even if I wanted to. The kids have been doting over me way too much. Izuku sighed. And these two aren't just here to help me out, they're also here to keep me from getting up. Good, I'll have to thank Yami for that. Okako made a mental note to do that later. Hey there Midori. Nice to see you again. Mina greeted, giving him a friendly wave. Don't worry about pulling us from class. I was looking for a break anyway. While I am unhappy about our leave from school, I am more than glad to do so if it means helping children in need. Ida shouted. Indeed, and while we will be away from UA we will be receiving schoolwork from our teachers. Momo emphasized that last part, electing groans from her less academically motivated classmates as well as Ken. Well, in that case I'll try not to give you too much work, Izuku told them. Nope. You're not lifting a finger. Okako put her hands on her hips and gave him a stern look. We came here to work, and that's what we're gonna do. Yeah. We're not getting paid to sit around. We're gonna work and work hard. Kirishima shouted. But maybe not too hard, Moneta added. Just make sure to leave enough time for us to train, Sato told him, in his typical disinterested tone. Well, alright then. I'll leave it up to you guys to divide the work. Izuku explained to them. But it will be a lot of work. Firstly, you'll have to feed all the children every day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner times, which means you have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get breakfast ready. Shouted out a few of the students. 5 in the morning? Moneta complained, looking like someone told him he had a terminal disease. Feeding the kids takes a while because you have to make all that food. That's 12 normal dishes, along with feeding Fu and Kyozai their enormous amount of meat. You have to make Netsu's food in a very specific way so he doesn't burn it while eating. Kai's food needs to be delivered in front of his room in a very specific way, and you also have to give Shraku her combination of human flesh and dead spiders. Izuku explained. Ugh. Taru's face contorted in disgust, not that anyone could see it. And you also have to make sure they have snacks that they can eat throughout the day stocked in the fridge. Izuku continued. Speaking of stocked, you'll also have to keep stock of not just the food, but all the supplies that are needed around the house. There is a comprehensive list of that in my drawer. I had Mom label it for you. The seers should be able to help. Hearing its name, the seer made its weird clicking noise that creeped a few of the students out. Yeah, what is that thing? Kaminari asked, looking thoroughly unnerved. It's creepier than normal grim ... somehow. Oh, this is a seer. Izuku pointed at the orb Grim. They can act kind of like a combination of moving phones and security cameras. I have a bunch of them patrolling the house and the forest around the house, and they'll warn you if anything's wrong, like if one of the kids broke something, or if there is an intruder. You can also use them to check on things, keep watch of all the kids, and help count inventory, as well as a variety of other things. They're the most useful Grimm by far, so you should keep one by at least one of you at all times. Many of the students didn't look too thrilled about this. Alright, but getting back to what you were talking about before. What tasks will we have to do while working here? Momo asked. Izuku took a deep breath. Well, besides food and inventory, you'll also have to deal with house maintenance. Inspect the house for any damages, and make sure everything is in working order, and if there are any issues, you'll have to call someone to fix it. This will mostly consist of one of the kids breaking and destroying something, and you having to replace or fix it. Also, you'll have to deal with all the appropriate paperwork that comes with repairing and maintaining parts of the house. Also, you'll have to manage their education, come up with lesson plan for all of them and then teach them in one of the classrooms. You'll also have to give personal allegiance to Fuku, Okako and Mew because they're too shy to work around others, although maybe that's changed for Fuku. You'll have to check. On top of that, you'll have to tutor the kids who didn't fully understand your lesson and make sure they do. Also, you'll have to handle requests from the children for certain objects at the end of every week. Also, you'll have to keep up and support all the kids' hobbies. Also, you'll have to help with pretty much all the kids' quirk training. If the kids get into a fight that's not sparring, then you'll have to break it up and punish them, before making them get along again and cheering them up later. If one of the kids has a personal issue, you'll either have to deal with it yourself or bring them to me. And you'll also have to deal with my financial paperwork, managing the money that comes in from the government, as well as managing the money I'm sending to my mother's company, selling Shiraku's leftover webbing, selling Fu's intact remains, as well as other things of which you will find a comprehensive list of in my desk. Also, you'll have to maintain the forest. The kids like to play and train there, so it almost constantly needs to be repaired, replanting trees, filling holes, etc. This of course will require you to make a few calls, and fill out the necessary paperwork. And XXXXXXXX, that's about it. Izuku finally finished. Class 1A, as well as Ken, Nara, and even Fu were all looking at him in shock. Okako was the first one to break out of her stupor. You were doing all that by yourself? Okako shouted at him, enraged. Izuku winced under her gaze. If you weren't recovering, I would slap you. How did you even manage to do all that for as long as you did? Momo asked in a mixture of amazement and disbelief. A mix of determination, good time management, and good pain tolerance, Izuku explained. Dude, that's manly, but also too much. Kirishima shouted. Midoriya. Knowing one's limits is an important part of life. While I admire your determination, you should have hired help to take on this workload long ago. Ida chided. Yeah, man, when you needed pain tolerance just to do your job, that's when you should have figured it was time to take a break, Sero told him. I get it. I get it. Izuku sighed. I was being dumb. But that's in the past, and we need to move forward. Momo nodded. He's right. Scolding Midoriya now won't do us much good. We need to divide this work among all 19 of us. Actually, Mom is here too. She's in the kitchen cooking lunch right now. Izuku told them. She's been very insistent on helping, so if you need help with pretty much anything, then she'll be there. Then we'll have to give her our thanks when we see her. Ida shouted, before turning to the class. Now, how many of you know how to cook? Sato, Aoyama, and Asui raised their hands. Alright, only 3, 4 including Mrs. Midoriya. Ida thought about it for a moment. I'm not sure that's enough. Hey, don't forget about the people that live here. Nara reminded them. Yonda and Yami have helped out in the kitchen before. They can be there to help you guys if you need it. Actually, that might be for the best. It's good if they learn how to cook for themselves, and it keeps them active. Tsu pointed out. I see. In that case, we'll ask the children how many of them want to help. Ida determined. But aside from the volunteers, Asui, Aoyama, and Sato will be in charge of the cooking alongside Mrs. Midoriya. I can help with house maintenance. Okako piped up. My parents run a construction company. Actually they work for Izuku, so I should be able to deal with all the construction stuff, and the paperwork. I see. Then I'll put you in charge of that. However, I would like Shoji and Jiro to assist you. I believe their quirks are the most suited for these tasks. Ida said. I'll do my best, Shoji said. I'll try not to mess it up. Jiro seemed a bit less sure, but it's not like she was gonna refuse. Koda, I think you could use your animals in combination with the seers to better inspect the forest, Momo told the quietest member of the class. Koda nodded, still not saying a word as usual. Yarazu and I will handle the lesson plans. Ida said. Mina, Asui, you two strike me as people who are good with children. Could you two handle teaching the children? Of course. Mina immediately rose to the challenge. I may not be the smartest, but I can teach a bunch of grade schoolers. I think I'll want to help you with the lesson plan. You might make it a bit too intense for them, Asui told them. Oh, and can I help too? I love dealing with kids. Tar requested. If you insist. Ida agreed. Now for quirk training. I'll help Erie. Okako immediately volunteered. Her issue is power control, right? I had that same problem. I think I can help her out the most. Agreed. Sato, can you help Kiba with her restraint training? Momo asked. I'll do my best. Sato agreed. Is anyone here into horror movies? Izuku abruptly asked. I am. Why? Mina was happy to share her love of horror movies, but she was a bit confused as to where that question came from. Fukunoko's training consists of her watching horror movies, and trying not to activate her quirk, Izuku explained. So it would be best if you were the one to handle her training. That's the fear gas girl. Right. Mina seemed a bit hesitant. I'm gonna have a gas mask for this. Right? Of course, Izuku answered quickly. Okay, then it should be fine. Mina still seemed a bit tentative. We'll get along like two peas in a pod. Lastly, we have Netsu. Momo turned to Shito. Todoroki, can you know? Shito quickly refused. Everyone was kind of taken aback by his sudden refusal, and so the bicolored boy explained. I don't use my fire. Therefore I have nothing to teach him. Shito said curtly. Wait, I thought his quirk made ice? Fu asked, slightly confused. His quirk is half cold, half hot. From his right side, he can make ice, and from his left, he can make fire, Izuku explained to the kids. It's a very powerful quirk, but he only uses the ice for some reason. What? Why? Ken asked, confused as to why anyone would limit themselves like that. That's none of your business, Shito said, his voice cold, with a bit of an edge to it. Geez, you're such a grump. Mina scolded. Yeah, kind and unmanly, Kirishima added. Shito just stayed silent, stoic, and stubborn. Well, if you won't train Netsu then who will? Momo asked. No one else had any sort of fire-based power, except Ken, and he wasn't exactly a master of controlling heat blast's abilities either. I suppose I will teach him. Tokoyami volunteered. I too have a great power I must control, lest I destroy all around me. Perhaps my experience can assist him. I suppose that is the best option we have. Momo gave Shito a questioning look, but the frosty body just gave her the cold shoulder. And with that taken care of, Kirishima, Okako, Tokoyami, Todoroki, Sero, Sato, Moneta, and I will be in charge of handling any fights or outburst from the children. Given how powerful they are, I believe we are the most equipped to take them down quick, and with harming either the children, or ourselves. Most of the people Momo listed seemed up for this, however, Moneta seemed more than a little upset. Oh man, why am I on the front lines in case one of these nuclear toddlers has a meltdown? Moneta mentally bemoaned. Alright, with that in mind. Your Araka volunteered to handle the paperwork involving construction, but we'll also need people to handle the various other types of paperwork. Ida pointed out. I feel the best people to be assigned to this are myself, Yaozu, Todoroki, and Moneta. Keeping Moneta away from the kids, good idea Ida. Through the girls collectively. And we can all do standard house chores such as cleaning, laundry, and washing dishes. So if anyone is available they can take care of those tasks. Momo told everyone. There was a general murmur of agreement among the students. Alright, now I think it's time I introduced you all to the children. Izuku decided as he leaned over to the seer. Gather all the kids in the backyard. It's time they meet our guest. XXXXXXXXXX. After a few minutes, everyone had gathered in the backyard. Izuku was still in a wheelchair, being handled by none other than Okako. Class 1A were faced opposite to the children, with most of them giving off warm smiles. Inko was also present, standing next to the children. Everyone, this is Class 1A. They already know who you all are, so there is no need for introductions. Izuku explained. Hello, children. Some of you may remember me, but to those who don't remember me, I am UA class representative, Tenya Ida. Ida introduced himself. And I am Vice Representative Momo Yaozu. Momo went next. I am Yuga Aoyama. Aoyama said while doing an overly flamboyant pose, and I'm Mina Ashido. You can just call me Mina. Mina said, while moving in front of Aoyama, and giving Kiba an eager grin. And I'm president of Class 1 as Kiba Fan Club. Hey! We never agreed on that. I want to be the president. Taru objected. Yeah, just saying you're the president without talking to the rest of the club is really unmanly. Kirishima crossed his arms and gave Mina a disapproving look. Yeah. As the person who met Kiba first, I should be the president. Okako insisted. Wait, when was there a club? Momo asked, confused as to when this started. While the Kiba fan club bickered, Kiba herself looked unsure. Thank you all for watching me. That caused them all to stop, and look at the girl oddly. It was easy that Kiba was not acting like herself, and they wondered what exactly was causing this huge shift in personality. While the Kiba squad was stunned, the rest of the class took the time to introduce themselves. And while they did, Kyoko was staring at them while hiding behind Kai. She didn't trust these people as far as she could throw them, and given her tiny body that wasn't very far. Especially that guy with the twin-colored hair. He looked so condescending. And she really didn't trust the short bald-haired guy for some reason. But her daddy needed the help. He tried so hard to do it all by himself, and it hurt him so bad. And these people were friends with Okako, so that gave them at least a little bit of credit. She would see how these people did. And if they tried anything funny, she would tell her father straight away. Kyoko would be more vigilant. She had to be. She wouldn't allow something to hurt her family like this again. Chapter 59. Shorts 13. While many of his classmates may have had an issue with waking up at 5, and immediately getting to work, but not Sato. He was always an early riser. Often, using his mornings to work out. Although now he doubted he had time for that. After all, he had a lot of food to make. Alright. Sato stood in the kitchen, looking at his helpers. Asui and Aoyama were of course here as they were both assigned to help. Inko was also present, as Izuku said she would be. Some kids had also come. Fu and Sanson felt like helping, and since they never had to sleep, they didn't have a problem waking up so early. Yonda and Yami had been helping out the whole time anyway. Yonda out of a sense of wanting to be useful, and Yami for the same reason, and also because he wanted to learn how to cook. Nara was also present, as she felt a sense of responsibility, although her brother was nowhere to be found. Fuku didn't join them as she no longer felt it was as necessary as before. Alright. So today we're gonna be making tamago cake going, with some vegetable toppings. Sato declared. Yami, can you take care of giving Kai his food? The frightful child nodded and left to go order his Grim to airdrop Kai's food to him. Fu, can you get your food from the fridge? Sato asked the zombie boy. Yes, we can. Cold doesn't affect us much. Fu said, before walking towards the fridge. Right, Sanson, your body can stretch around the whole kitchen, so you stay on standby and get us what we ask for, Sato told the slime girl, as she gave him a big cartoon thumbs up. I can also be in multiple places at once. Nara turned to her Omnitrix and selected an alien. And then after a flash of pink light, she transformed into Ditto. Watch. Nara's body then, seemingly split in two, creating a duplicate of herself. That's great. How many clones can you make? Sato asked her. 20, Nara answered, her voice cartoonishly high-pitched. I can only do this for 10 minutes though. That should be all we need, Sato said. 15 of you can go set up the tables and deliver the meals, and you can keep 5 clones here to help cook. On it. Nara nodded. Everyone else, get ready to cook. Sato shouted as he raised his fist into the air. Yes, Chief. Cried everyone. XXXXXXXXXXXXMMH. Man, this is good. Kaminari said, as he and many of his other classmates, as well as the children, just destroyed their meals. Yeah you. Thif Gurwat. Mina said with a mouthful of food. Ashido. Do not talk with your mouth full. Ida scolded. But you are correct. You all did an excellent job with the cooking. Yeah Sato, nice job. Okako praised the muscle-bound cook as she ate. Don't give me all the praise, everyone did their part. Sato looked to his helpers. You all did amazing. Couldn't have made as much food without you guys. I'm used to making food for my siblings already, so I'm kinda used to having to do things like this. Although this was obviously on a much bigger scale, Tsu said. Mwah. Obviously, I am able to cook. Aoyama said, flamboyant. Myself in the kitchen is a dazzling sight to see. Man, you are like ... a living stereotype, huh? Sero asked the Frenchman. It was fun. Yonda said while she had a mouthful of food. Pretty much everyone was satisfied, except for 2. Ken and Kiba, neither of whom liked vegetables all that much. Ugh. Ken groaned as he looked at his food, before his sister, who was sitting next to him, kicked him in the leg. Ow. Don't be rude. People worked hard to make this. Nara aggressively whispered to him while giving him a fierce glare. And they're good for you. They don't taste like it. Ken grimaced. Kiba didn't complain, she just made a very sour face as she scarfed down her food as fast as possible to get it over with. She may not like it, but she didn't want to be a bother. Hey, where's Kyaku? Asked. She went to go eat with your father, dear. Inko smiled. She said she didn't want him to be alone. Gasped. That's a great idea. Mr. Sato, can we take our food and eat with Daddy? You don't have to ask me. I just make the food, you can eat wherever you want. Sato told them. With an eager grin, lifted her bowl and ran out to go to Izuku, with Erie deciding to follow her. Fu looked at Kiba, who looked like she wanted to join them but didn't. Kiba what the heck is going on with you? Fu thought. XXXXXXXXXXXX hey, Dad. Okako was currently in Izuku's office, looking over some reports. Oh hey honey, what's going on? Her father asked, slightly concerned. I've called you at least a dozen times, but you ain't been answering? You haven't heard? Okako cringed. Izuku Izuku collapsed. What? Okako had to move away from the phone. It's okay. She quickly reassured him. He's not gonna die or anything but he's just really weak right now. She heard her father breathe a sigh of relief. Thank goodness. What on earth brought that boy down? Overwork, Okako answered. Oh yeah, that'll do it. Her father said. That boy has a heart of gold, but the human body can only take so much charity. And Lord knows the world doesn't make being kind an easy thing to do. And he never knows when to stop. Okako sighed soundly, slightly agitated. And how do you feel about that? Her father asked. I feel frustrated. Okako vented. Pretty much everyone he met treated him like crap. And then it finally seems like he gets to have the life he deserves, and he just sabotages himself. And I'm just so angry. He's such a wonderful person and he cares for everyone. Everyone but himself. He thinks of the people that bully him more than himself. And that's just Okako's head slammed into the desk, as she took a moment to just let her frustrations seep out. So he's that type, huh? Her father said. Listen, Okako, Midoriya has what they called a bleeding heart. It pours and pours for everyone else, but eventually, he'll be left with nothing for himself. Listen, honey, you can't leave people like him alone for too long. They'll end up killing themselves one way or another eventually. Don't say that, Okako shouted. That thought sent shivers down her spine. The thought that Izuku cared for himself so little that no matter what happened, if you left him alone for too long. It's the truth, dear. A man who holds no love for himself can't stand on his own. Okako's father said. He needs people to teach him how to care for himself, dear. And I know those kids love him a whole bunch, but a lot of them need just as much help as he does. And I don't even know where his parents are. His mom's here, Okako told him. But she can only be here for so long. She has a company to deal with overseas. You know, financial security is important. Sure do. Her father said. But that leaves Midoriya with no one who can stop him from running himself into the ground. No one but you. Dad, you know I have to focus on my studies. Okako reminded him gloomily. I'm not saying monitor his every move, I'm just saying you should pop by every now and again. He's not the kind of guy to ask for help, so you may have to force it down his throat a bit. Her father explained. Just remind him that he better look after himself, otherwise you'll kick down his door and whoop his ass. Okako giggled a bit. I thought you'd want me to stay away from boys. Her father laughed with her. In most cases, yeah. But remember what you said about financial security. Well, ours kinda goes down the drain if he dies, so it's for everyone's sake that you make sure he's still kicking. Also, I won't lie. Boy made a good first impression. Determined, hard-working, heart of gold. And he's rich. Honey, if you want to lock that down, I won't get in the way. Daddy. It's not like that. Okako's face turned bright red. He's just a friend. I'm just saying, sweetheart, there are a lot worse picks. Her father said. Yeah, I know. Okako said. But enough about that. Me and my classmates are kinda trying to help him out while he's recovering, so we also have to take care of the house maintenance. Sanson just melted some of the stairs, so do you think could repair those and help out with the paperwork? Of course, darling. We'll get right on it. Her father said. All right. See you soon. Bye. Okako hung up. The brunette looked up and saw Momo standing in the doorway, staring at her with paper in her arms and a slight smile on her face. Oh, Momo. I didn't see you there. Okako blushed a bit at not noticing her classmate, standing there for presumably a little while. How long were you standing there? Near the beginning of a phone call. I apologize for eavesdropping, but your phone call was not something I'd experienced before. Momo told her. You haven't had a phone call with your dad? Okako raised her eyebrow, giving her a confused look. No, I have. Plenty of them. Momo told her. But it's not like yours your Araka. Can I tell you something? Of course. Never be afraid to speak your mind, Vice Rep. Okako gave her a kind reassuring smile. We're friends after all. Momo returned her smile, with the same warmth, albeit a bit shakier. I'm not used to this level of casualness. I was raised in a very proper home, and in very proper schools. It wasn't terrible or even all that bad, necessarily, it was just very slightly uncomfortable, in a way, I never noticed up until now. This casual feeling it relaxing. That's why I was caught up in your conversation with your father. It was so different from my own. Oh well, it's fine then. Okako excused her. Just try not to lurk next time. I'll keep that in mind, Momo said. Also, if you have free time, do you think you could help me with these papers? Sure, Okako told her. That's what friends are for. XXXXXXXXX. Alright, everyone. And that's it for today's biology lesson. Mina said, standing in the front of the classroom, to all the children sitting in the chairs. Does anyone have any questions? Tsu asked. Raised her hand. Yuck. Mina called on her. You said boobies are there so women can give milk to their babies. Right? Asked. That's right, I'm so glad you understand. Mina petted her snakes proudly. But why are they all different sizes? Asked curiously. Ms. Yumimo has really big boobies, and Miss Jiro has almost no boobies. Mina tried her hardest not to laugh, and was failing horribly, while Tsu just rolled her eyes. That's a part of genetics, Tsu explained. We were going to go into that tomorrow, but I guess we can give you a preview of it now. Tsu then went up to the chalkboard and spent a few minutes drawing an image. On the left side of the board was a woman, and on the right was a man. Both had arrows next to them that pointed to a wheel. Genetics are a big part of what makes you, Tsu explained. Genetics come from your mother, and your father. Your birth parents, that is. Not Izuku. And when you're being created inside of your mother's bellies, those genetics are randomly shuffled around, until they finish creating you. Your hair color, your height, weight, skin color, breast size, eye color, your quirk, and some parts of your personality, are all chosen by genetics. Think of it like a big wheel, and when you spin it, it randomly decides what traits you get. And the genetics you get from your mother and father decide what's on that wheel. So people get lucky, and some people don't, Mina told them. Momo hit the genetic jackpot. Jiro did too, in every place except for her breast size. But don't tell her I said that. She's really sensitive about her itty-bitties. Mina, Tsu said while looking at the open doorway. The door? Huh? Mina looked behind her at the doorway, and froze, because she saw Jiro standing there, giving her a very menacing look, with her earlobes raised. Hey Jiro. Mina started sweating nervously, trying to back up, only to stumble into a desk. Why, you were just hanging around? Jiro didn't say a word, she just slowly started advancing. Hey Jiro. I was just answering a question, it's not my fault. Mina tried to defend herself. Itty bitties, Jiro repeated with venom gushing from her tone. Mina gulped as the rocker approached her. Kids, save me. Some of the kids got up to come to her aid, but Tsu raised her hand to stop them. Kids, don't. This is a lesson about watching what you say, and the consequences if you don't. Tsu, you traitor. Mina shouted as Jiro descended upon her. It was just a joke. It was just a joke. And thus it was quickly decided the next lesson would be on how to deal with stab wounds. XXXXXXXXXXX. You're doing it, Erie, you're doing it. Okako chanted, as she watched Erie try to turn off her quirk. Erie breathed in and out rapidly, struggling as she tried to control the wild bull that was her quirk. Ugh. Ma. Her horn kept shrinking back into her head, it would sometimes move a centimeter back up, as it resisted Erie's will to try and keep on going, but Erie was more determined than ever. After a few minutes, the strange energy her horn emitted ceased, And a few seconds later, Erie finally managed to get her horn back to its default position. Once this was done, Erie flopped back onto the floor, breathing heavily. "Good job, Erie." Okako applauded her. "This is the third time you turned your quirk on and off today. Izuku said you normally can only do it once on a good day." Thank you, Okako," Erie said between breaths, as she struggled to keep her eyes open. "I need to work really hard to control my quirk and help people." "All you," Okako cooed, as she picked up Erie and started petting her head, exactly as Izuku instructed. "You're such a nice girl, Erie. But it's time for you to rest. You look really tired." Erie pouted and shook her head, and forced herself to sit up. "No. I need to control it." "Don't overdo it, Erie. It's gonna be a long time until you can fully control your quirk," Okako told her, picking her up to put her in bed. Erie weakly struggled in Okako's arm. "Nah, I need to control it." Okako frowned. "Erie. What's going on? Why are you being so stubborn?" The horned girl pouted. "If I could use my quirk. I could fix Dad. And he'd never have to be like that ever again." "Oh." Okako felt like an idiot. Of course, that's what would be the problem. It was so obvious. It must have been so frustrating, to have the power to fix a problem so important to you, and just not have been able to use it. At the very least, she didn't try to fix Izuku in her current state. That likely would have gone very poorly. But now Okako needed to get this girl to sleep before she made herself sick from exhaustion. And she knew she would need to get some help. Izuku was currently working on papers, in his bed with his two grim apes next to him, when the door opened. "What on earth are you doing?" Izuku sighed, as he saw Okako enter the room, with Erie in her arms. "Hello, Okako." "You too, Erie." Both Erie and Okako wore pouts on her face, Erie because she still wanted to continue training, and Okako because Izuku was working on his break. "I am dealing with some papers involving the QRD, Izuku explained. "We can talk about it after we talk about why my little unicorn is pouting." Okako looked hesitant to let this go for now, but ultimately relented. She moved towards the bed, plopping Erie right next to Izuku, and standing next to her to make sure she didn't try to just roll off and escape. She has been working very hard on controlling her quirk. She managed to turn it on and off 3 whole times. Izuku gave a forced gasp, although he was a bit surprised. He over-exaggerated it for Erie's sake. 3 whole times. That's amazing, Erie. Erie found herself cuddling into Izuku's side against her will, her own body betraying her. But the problem is she's very tired but wants to keep going so she can master her quirk faster. Okako shook her head. Because she wants to heal you the next time you get sick. She's overworking herself, like father, like daughter. Oh, Erie. Izuku gave her a gentle smile and brought her into his embrace. Rest is important. Trust me, I tried to keep working and ignoring my body, and I ended up like this. You can't do that, Erie, that's a no-no. But I want to fix you, Erie muttered. I know. You're such a good girl. Such a kind, pure-hearted girl. Izuku told her. But you need to know your limits. I can keep going, Erie whispered, a yawn following soon after. Oh really? Izuku gave her a slightly mischievous smile. Well, if you can stay awake for a whole 2 minutes, then you can keep training. Deal? Deal. Erie's eyes flew open, however, she quickly found she had to fight to keep them that way. You really think you can do it? Izuku asked, getting a nod from her. Even if I hold you real close. Izuku brought the girl up to his chest, holding her right against his chest. And not fair. Erie's eyes were half closed, as she absorbed the warmth of Izuku's touch. It was so soothing that she quickly found that even fighting at her hardest wouldn't be enough. What about if I pet your head, like this? Izuku brushed his hand through her hair. Erie didn't even have the time to protest. as she quickly closed her eyes, and fell into a deep sleep. Izuku and Okako looked at Erie's adorable sleeping form, before Okako looked up, back at the paperwork Izuku was doing, and frowned again. The green-haired teen looked up at her and sighed. "Look, I know what you're gonna say, then why are you doing it?" Okako whispered aggressively. "You know you shouldn't be working right now. This is QRD work. This is important work that contains classified information." Izuku's tone was dead serious and told Okako that he wasn't ashamed in the slightest of what he was doing. "I can't hand this over to a bunch of people I just met. And while I trust you and Mom, neither of you know enough about this for you to make decisions this important. Not to mention I would have to send in an advance notice saying that you have permission to make this decision in the first place, and that would take far too much time." "Well, can't you just put it on hold until you recover?" Okako asked him. "How would you feel if you had to stay 3 more weeks in a bunker, unable to see the outside or even your family because the person responsible for releasing you was being an idiot?" Izuku told her. "It's important work. And I can't put it to the side unless I absolutely have to." Okako didn't look convinced. Izuku sighed. "Okay, it's the only real work I'm doing. And it's reduced. I'm only really doing this for an hour a day." Yoraraka continued to give him a look, judging his words for a minute before relaxing and giving a long sigh. "Well, don't overdo it. I'll be watching you now. So, don't think you can get away with overdoing it." I won't. Izuku looked down at Erie, sleeping at his side. "I'll try my best for her. For all of them." XXXXXXXXXXX. It was late at night, and most of Class 1A was asleep. All except for Shido, who had done the least that day, and as such was assigned to finish up some of the leftover paperwork that night. This is extremely tedious. Todoroki had never felt so bored in his life. His father had always been particularly upset after he did the stack of paperwork he had to do as a high-ranking hero, and for once Shido understood something about his father. Knock. Knock. Shido looked up, wondering who could be knocking at this time of night. "Come in." The door opened, and in came Kiba. Hi. Hello. "What are you doing up?" Shido asked her. I wanted to ask you something. How much work is it to clean up the house when we break something?" "A lot," Shido answered bluntly. "It takes about half an hour to deal with even the smallest of things. It's ridiculous." How long does it take for the bigger stuff or multiple things?" Kiba almost looked like she was afraid of the answer. "I'd imagine hours. Not including the phone calls," Shido told her. "It's a lot of work." Shido guessed the girl must have broken a lot of things because she looked extremely guilty. Like, he'd never seen a child look this guilt-ridden before. Not that he's seen a lot of children, mind you. After taking a few minutes to compose herself, Kiba looked back up at him and asked, "Can I see how much stuff got broken before Daddy got sick?" Shido gave that some thought. She was probably just being thoughtful and wanted to see how much damage she caused. Maybe this would help her be more mindful in the future. Sure. Why not? What's the worst that can happen? Oh, Shido. You don't know what you've done. Next chapter and maybe even the chapter after that we'll be focusing on Kiba. To the surprise of no one, she's only one of the most popular OCS in this fic. Chapter 60. So what you're telling me is that Kiba, who was already feeling guilty about the amount of property damage she might have caused since she's been here, asked you to show her physical proof of this, and you just let her, Izuku asked, clutching his head as headaches assaulted him. Well, to be fair, I didn't think she'd cause that much property damage, Sato said, defending himself. I thought it would motivate her to be more careful. I didn't think it'd cause her to react like that. Even though he said that Sato could see now that he'd made a mistake. He figured that out when, while they were looking through the papers, Kiba burst into tears and ran out of the room. I'm so sorry for this, Midoriya. Momo and Ito were present, alongside her classmate. I was aware that Todoroki was emotionally distant, but I didn't know he was this out of touch. Ida gave an apologetic bow on behalf of his classmate. We apologize on behalf of Class 1A. We sincerely apologize for causing this. Momo also bowed. Izuku took a deep breath, trying to rein in his headache. Okay, take me to her. XXXXXXXXX. Izuku was in a wheelchair, being wheeled by Ida towards Kiba's room. Outside of Kiba's room were Fu, Nara, Ken, Netsu, Shraku, Erie, and Daddy. Immediately ran over to Izuku and looked at him worryingly. Daddy, Kiba is acting weird. Yes, I heard. Izuku nodded. I'm going to see her now. Izuku looked at Ida. I'll wheel myself now. Are you sure that's wise? Ida asked him. Izuku nodded. I'll be fine. Please, just ... I think I'll need to talk to her alone. Ida looked hesitant, but ultimately understood, and backed off. With that, Izuku wheeled himself towards Kiba's door, looking at the concerned looks on his kids' faces. As he approached the door, he took a deep breath, readying himself for what he might see on the other side. He pushed the door open, and what he saw was ... odd. Kiba was just sitting on her bed, watching television. Hey Kiba, Izuku said, as he wheeled himself in and closed the door behind him. Kiba looked over to him and winced with guilt. And it hurt Izuku so much to see her do that. Hi Daddy. After she greeted him, Kiba almost immediately looked away. Izuku frowned and wheeled himself closer to her. I know you looked at the files. Why didn't you tell me? Kiba asked in a sad, low voice. I destroyed so much stuff. I didn't know ... I hurt you. No, sweetheart, Izuku tried to explain, but she interrupted him. Don't lie to me. Kiba suddenly shouted, looking tearfully at Izuku. You told us you were okay. But you weren't. You didn't tell me I was giving you so much work, and hurting you. And now you're like this and it's my fault. Izuku was at a loss for words. He wanted to just say that it wasn't true. Clearly he had overused simple hand-wavy explanations like that. Meaning his only real option here was to be a bit truthful. Okay ... I can't hide it from you anymore. You did give me ... a lot of work, with all the things you broke. But that's part of why you're here. Why you're all here. Your quirks are very powerful and destructive. That's not any of your faults. Kai gives me a lot of work to do just by living here. Netsu constantly makes small burns everywhere and sets things on fire occasionally. Fukanoko's room needs to be constantly inspected and maintained to make sure there are no leaks. And all the work that goes into feeding you all is far more exhausting than you could ever be ... But all that stuff can't be helped. Kai can't stop being big. Netsu can't stop being on fire. Fuka can't stop her gas. And we can't stop eating ... But I can stop destroying things, Kiba argued. I just need to stay in here and be very careful. You can't just stay in here all the time, Kiba, Izuku told her. Are just not supposed to live your life because of you gave me my life. Kiba argued, causing Izuku to pause. I was never the queen of eternal darkness. When you found me I had nothing. I was a pathetic little girl, dying on the ground. And before that, I was a thief that hurt people just to stay alive. But you took me, and Fu and you gave us a home, food, and a family. I live in a super big house, getting everything I want, getting to order around super cool monsters, and play pretend with my brothers and sisters. All thanks to you. And I ... I hurt you. Kiba started crying now, still refusing to look at Izuku. You gave me everything I could ever want, and all I did was make your life harder, and ask for more. Izuku tried to find the words to reassure her, but he was a bit too busy fighting back the massive feeling of guilt. He did this. If he had just hired some help, this would never have happened. I can't hurt from in here. So I'm staying in here. Kiba said, sniffling as tears still rolled down her cheeks. And I won't ask for anything. Kiba. Now Izuku was crying as well. Kiba, you can't stay in here. Kiba stopped responding entirely. Just sitting there with her back turned to Izuku. Kiba, look at me. Izuku tried to get to her, but she just wouldn't respond. After a few moments of silence, Izuku just wheeled himself over to her, leaned in, and wrapped his arms around her, bringing her into a gentle hug. Give you some time for now. But I want you to know, you were never a burden to me, and I never thought for a moment that my life would be better without you. I can say safely that if I never met all of you. My life would be so much darker. Kiba flinched after hearing that but still didn't respond. After a minute, Izuku separated from her, and slowly wheeled himself out of the room. He took one last look at Kiba, hoping to see her looking back, but to his dismay, she was still turned away from him. With a sigh, he left her room, hoping that this would heal a bit with time. The next day had arrived, and things didn't seem to improve. All of yesterday, Kiba had kept true to her word, never leaving her room except to eat, and that's it. When people came to talk to her, she would speak normally. Not normal for her, but rather how you would expect a normal person to speak. She had completely dropped her Queen of Eternal Darkness thing, and now she was just Kiba Midoriya little girl. And now halfway through day 2 of this behavior, people were getting concerned that this may not blow over. So that is what led Fu to where he was, standing outside her door, ready to go inside. A few others before him had attempted to cheer her up, talk her into going back outside, sparring, or making a video. But nothing seemed to work. No one could do it. Not Erie, Netsu, Nara. None of them. And so as the one who's known her the longest, Fu decided he had to give it a shot. He went in, and saw her, on her bed watching TV when she turned and saw Fu enter the room. "Oh, hi Fu." "Hey." Fu greeted her with a wave. I've never seen her subdued like this. It's not like Kiba had never dropped her act before. She had from time to time, but never for very long, and never like this. She was almost like a different person. So do you really staying in here is better for Dad? Fu asked her. Kiba turned away and nodded. I can't make any more work for him here. Yeah, but you are making him and everyone else worry about you a ton. Fu pointed out. You know Dad blames himself for everything that goes wrong, so doing this only makes him feel worse. That bit of logic hit Kiba, making her wince and her face scrunch up in guilt, as she thought about what Fu said. But he'll get over it. If I keep making him work, he might get even sicker next time. And then he might die. You know he has help this time, right? Fu asked her. He has Okako's class right now, and he's gonna hire help after they leave. That's not gonna happen again. But what if Daddy just does all the work himself anyway? Kiba argued irrationally. Why on earth would he hire employees just so he could do all the work himself? Fu asked her. Actually, that sounds exactly like something he would do, but hopefully, that doesn't happen. Why would he let us work him to near death? Kiba countered. Daddy's too nice. Okay, I see what's going on. Fu thought. Kiba was always stubborn. If she got a thought in her head, it was rather difficult to get it out. Especially when she is scared. Because that's what this was. Kiba was just scared that she was the one who hurt Izuku, and was now overreacting. And now she was determined to stick to her guns, and stay in here because she was too scared of the alternative. Look, I get you're scared, Fu called her out. But I'm not scared. Kiba refuted. I'm being mindful. For once. All I do out there is cause problems. Why do you think Daddy scolds me the most? Like that time I argued with you guys about colors. And that time I threw a car at All Might. All those times I broke things. That time I hurt myself in the greenhouse. All those times I spread your insides across the house. I am always doing something wrong. Oh. She really remembered all that. Fu thought, slightly surprised that Kiba bothered to think of those moments. Perhaps she was a bit more aware than he had given her credit for. "Look, I get that you feel. How can you get how I feel?" Kiba glared at him. "You can barely feel at all. And you are one of Daddy's favorites. He always trusts you and praises you, and you and Yami are always helping him. And you can use your quirk without destroying anything or breaking anything. How could you know how I feel? Okay. Clearly, this is worse than I thought." Fu looked for a way to reach her. "So you're just gonna stay in here for the rest of your life? What about Kiba, Queen of Eternal Darkness? How are you gonna be a hero if you don't train?" "We both knew that was fake," Kiba said bitterly, and Fu detected a bit of hurt in her voice. "I just called myself that to make myself feel better about the fact that I was cursed with a quirk that meant to hurt people, and my parents kicked me out because all I do is hurt the people who are supposed to take care of me. If Daddy weren't so nice, then he would have thrown me out already." "Well, what about your channel? And your fans?" Fu pulled out his last card. "You said you weren't gonna ask for anything, so are you not gonna ask for anything to do your streaming?" "I'm just gonna stop streaming," Kiba said in a very, very low voice, as if she was still unsure of herself. "I do a lot of stupid things while streaming. I hurt myself, I break things. I'll stop for Daddy's sake." That actually caused Fu's eyes to widen for a second, as he was really, really surprised by this. Kiba adored streaming. She did it pretty much every day. And it was clear to see how much fun she had while doing it. To give up something she loved so much. But she clearly looked unsure of this. She was saying this, but he wasn't sure if she meant it. But if it was affecting her deeply enough for her to say that, then she was beyond reaching. At least to just him. "Besides, the Queen of Eternal Darkness is gone," Kiba said sadly. "Well then I'll leave you to it," Fu told her. "But I know that you know that Dad will never really be happy if you're not. So while you're sitting in here, ask yourself. Are you happy?" Kiba paused, before turning away, and muttering, "I'm fine." Leaving Kiba with that thought, Fu left the room, coming up with a plan. Kiba looked out the window at the starry sky and the night. A part of her wanted so badly to go out and do anything. She wanted to feel the night's cool air on her skin, see the moon shining brightly in the sky, and just run around and enjoy herself. But she couldn't, she reminded herself. Because what would happen if she went out there, did some stretches, and broke 20 trees or something? Izuku would have to do a lot of work to replace each and every one of those trees. Or maybe, she'd throw a rock through the house and make holes in 15 walls. Which Izuku would also have to fix. Oh, actually Okako's classmates would fix those. Maybe she'd bring them to collapse too. Izuku didn't mind if he got hurt. But if she hurts others? Maybe then Izuku would finally have enough and kick her back out onto the street like her parents did. That thought alone was enough to make her sit still and stay in her room and watch TV, although, being honest, this had gotten pretty unenjoyable a while ago. After a few hours of just sitting in the room, she got this itch. To go outside her room. To run around, spar a bit, play some games. Not that she could do any of that. She could literally destroy a wall by pressing on it with a bit of effort. Creating hours of work for her father. But here, in her room specifically made for her, reinforced to make it harder to destroy, she was fine. And Izuku would be fine. Even if she was bored and sad, and more than a little bit lonely. She'd get used to it. Fukanoko lived like this, so why couldn't she? I'll get used to it. Kiba thought, curling up into a ball on her bed. Ignoring her urges to get up and do anything. I have, too. XXXXXXXXX in the cafeteria, a group of people calling themselves the Turn Kiba Back to Normal Squad had gathered. This group consisted of kids such as Erie, and Fu, as well as members of Class 1A such as Okako, Mina, Taru, and Kirishima, and of course, Izuku himself. And so that's how it was. Fu finished explaining what happened with Kiba. Damn that Todoroki, I'm going to melt him so hard. Mine accursed. Please don't. Izuku sighed. This was clearly a long time coming. Kiba has always been more problematic than the others. It's true I've had to scold her far more than any of the other children, and she caused far more property damage and destruction than all the children combined. And while I would have kept hiding that, Kiba isn't an idiot, and she is more observant than I gave her credit for. She would have come to this conclusion at some point. However, my collapse just made things worse. If anyone should be blamed for this, then it's me. Okako gave Izuku a conflicted look. On one hand, he should feel bad for letting this happen to himself, and the kids by extension. On the other hand, he was being really hard on himself. So in the end she just put a comforting hand on his shoulder, not telling him that he was wrong, but providing some level of reassurance. I don't know if Kiba is gonna stay like this forever, but she is definitely determined to try. And that means this may last a while. But she's gonna hate that. Kiba hates standing still the most. Actually Sansan hates it the most, but Kiba's a close second. Said. Yeah, and she's gonna suffer for however long she stays like this. Mina pointed out. We need to find some way to make her realize she has to leave her room, Erie asked. I think I can help. Everyone looked to the source of the voice and found that it was Fukinoko, standing there in her hoodie. Fuku, Izuku said with slight disbelief. He'd never seen her walk into, and stay in a room with this many people. And she spoke up. I don't like this new Kiba. Fuku admitted. She reminds me too much of me. And I hate it. We need to get the old Kiba back immediately. Wow Fuku. You really fired up. Smiled at her, her snakes giving a pleased hiss. Yeah, girl. Mina cheered on the normally shy child. So do you have a plan? Taru asked her. Yeah. Fuku looked the other way, not wanting to see all of them looking right at her. But it apostrophe s. Gonna take some time. Chapter 61. Kiba was once again sitting in her room, watching TV. At this point, she wasn't even really watching, just staring blankly at the screen. Roar. Suddenly Kiba heard the familiar sound of Kai's screaming roar and felt her room slightly shake a bit. Kiba saw something outside her window, from the corner of her eye, and she quickly ran over to look at it. Outside was a fantastic battle between Kai, Okako, Junkin, and Nara. Junkin was in his stink fly form, shooting gunk into Kai's eyes, while Nara froze his feet to the ground as art iguana, and Okako kept hitting him with a big tree that she had grabbed. But Kai was just powering through everything, thrashing about, trying to hit his opponents with his heads and feet. It didn't take long for her to remember her own battles with Kai, and imagine herself fighting alongside them. Or even better, maybe she could be fighting alongside Kai against his attackers, leading him in battle. Kiba shut her eyes and shook her head, trying and failing to get that thought out of her head. No. I'd probably fall and crash through the house. I might even hurt someone. As quickly as the battle came, it left. With Kai flying away, somewhere out of sight, with Ken picking up Okako and Nara and flying after him. Once they were all gone, Kiba balled up her fist and held in a scream of frustration. She quickly ran over to her bed and screamed into her pillow. No matter how much she tried, she couldn't quell the feeling of wanting to go outside and join them. It looked like so much more fun than staying stuck up in here. I should just forget about it, Kiba told herself, as she bruised herself in her bed. XXXXXXXXXX. Not too much longer, Kiba heard something else outside her window. She heard another voice outside her window. Out of curiosity, Kiba once again brought herself to the window and saw Shiraku, Erie, and Erie was dressed in an apple-red dress that was a bit fancier than anything she would normally wear, looking more like something that would fit Kiba's attire. She was clearly embarrassed about it, as even from up there Kiba could see that Erie's face was about as red as her dress. Seemed far more ecstatic, looking down at her white, almost toga-like dress, seeming like something fitting of her Medusa-like appearance, while also seeming fitting and pretty. They both possessed the kind of regalness that Kiba loved in her clothes. She couldn't hear much of what they were saying, but they did seem to be having fun, although Erie might have been struggling a bit, even if she looked absolutely precious. Kiba's cheeks puffed up as she pouted. Couldn't they do this somewhere else? Didn't they know how badly she wanted to jump down there and dress up with them? Laugh with them? Hug Erie because she is flipping adorable? But she could tear apart the dress, which she often did, and she might accidentally do to Erie what she did to Fu on a constant basis, except Erie would actually get hurt. Suddenly Mina came out and started talking to them. "Hey girls, let's go. We can try on even more cool clothes." Shruku and cheered, and Erie nodded as they all ran away. Although, Erie lagged behind, before staring up at Kiba with sad, begging eyes, as if asking why Kiba wasn't down there with them. Kiba felt like she got stabbed with that look, so much so that she literally jumped back from her window, and onto the floor. "Ugh!" Kiba wailed as she rolled around on the floor. Not fair. Not fair. Not fair. It was all just so unfair. Why did she have to be born with such an uncontrollable quirk? Why couldn't she ever turn it off like Okako could with her strength quirk? Why did she have to drink blood to use it? Kiba once again grabbed her pillow and screamed into it. Hopefully, she could just ignore the world for the rest of the day. XXXXXXXXXXXX. Alright. Let's get the meat-eating competition underway. Kiba heard the loud voice of Mina Ashido outside her window once again. Meat-weighting competition? Oh, come on. Kiba screamed, before shaking her head. No. Nope. I'm not gonna look. Our contestants are Yami, Junkin, and Kirishima, shouted Mina. And our food, cooked personally by our head chef Sato, are lots of jikushi beef skewers, some beef tataki, yakiniku, loads of hamburg, and lastly, we have oodles of steak, all perfectly cooked and freshly made. Kiba screamed into her pillow once more, as it was all she could do to keep herself from drooling at the sounds of some of her favorite foods, as well as new food she really wanted to try. She'd just have to ask if she could have some later. Very politely. And only a little. Alright. Begin. Mina shouted. Somehow, those boys managed to eat loud enough that Kiba could hear it all the way from her room. It would be impressive if it wasn't infuriating, as Kiba could hear just how much they enjoyed their food. It was hell. And it was hell that continued for almost half an hour. Alright. And the winner is Junkin. Although he did use his quirk to turn into a giant orange dog, that wasn't against the rules, so he wins. Mina announced. Rag! Roared Junkin as wild mutt. Alright, with that done, let's eat all of the leftover food and get out of here. Mina shouted. GGHHHHH. Kiba whined. Just ignore them, Kiba. Don't think about all that delicious food you're not eating. She'd just wait to be fed later at dinner time. In 4 hours. XXXXXXXXXX. The forest was lighting up. Kiba had absolutely no idea what was going on. All she saw was that there was a very bright glow in the forest of many different colors, and she couldn't see what was causing it. And her curiosity was killing her. Kiba bit her lip, and pried herself away from the window, and back onto her bed, hoping that not looking at it would keep her from feeling tempted to explore what the heck was causing that. It did. Barely. XXXXXXXXX. Boom. Kiba blinked in disbelief, as she heard something she couldn't believe. Kaboom. Fireworks. She could hear fireworks. Immediately Kiba once again returned to her window. And she did in fact see a firework. Part of one. Boom. A firework went off, and Kiba could just barely see a small part of it. Kiba wanted to cry. In fact, she was actually tearing up from sadness and frustration. She hated being stuck in this stupid room. It was literal hell. How the hell did Fuku manage to live like this? She was very tempted to just say screw it, and go outside to see the fireworks. Surely she could hold back her strength long enough to look at the fireworks. "You selfish girl!" shouted a voice in her mind that reminded her a bit too much like her mother for her comfort. "Can't even stay in your room for a week, you leech. After everything he's done for you." That stopped any feeling of temptation she had, and replaced it with sadness, guilt, and anger. So Kiba just went away from her window, back onto her head, stuffed her face back into her pillow, and started crying, wondering just how many times she would have to repeat this over the course of her new life. XXXXXXXXXX Kiba wanted to sleep so much. It was now past midnight, and no matter how much she tried, she couldn't get a lick of sleep. She was too busy thinking back to all the things she had missed today. A huge fight with K, showing off some cool dresses, a meat-eating competition ... whatever the heck that thing in the forest was, all ending off with a fireworks display at night. That all sounded like it would have been a great day. A fantastic day. And yet, it had actually been one of her worst days ever since she came here. Would this be what her future had in store? It was on that dreadful thought that she finally fell into a dreamless sleep. XXXXXXXX Kiba was woken up by someone shaking her. Go away. Kiba still felt absolutely miserable, and she did not feel like getting up and facing reality. Absolutely not. Said a familiar, but not too familiar voice. Wait. Kiba was shocked when she recognized the voice and had to open her eyes to confirm what she was hearing. Fukunoko? In front of her was Fuku, with her hoodie on, but the hood was down, and her face was revealed. That was the first most shocking thing about her situation. The second was that she was outside, in the woods. They were in a large clearing, next to a small lake, laying on the grass near the water. What the? How did I get out of here? Kiba panicked slightly once she realized she was out of her room. I took you here. Fuku shyly admitted, speaking just loud enough so Kiba could hear her. Huh? Why? Kiba was beyond confused. Sure, she knew people weren't exactly happy about her staying in her room, but Fuku of all people? Fuku did the exact same thing. And she was way too shy to do something like this. And yet, here they were. Was this a dream? Kiba pinched her cheek, confirming that she was in fact really here. I really can't believe you actually stayed inside the whole day. Fuku pouted at her. After everything we did to try and lure you out, I was sure you would leave. Wait. Kiba took in what Fuku just said with wide eyes. You all ... did that on purpose. Kiba's expression changed to that of pure fury. All the pain and misery she felt today was on purpose. Why? Kiba shouted, tears of rage leaking down her face. Why would you do that? Just to lure me out? You spend all your time in your room. But it's bad when I do it? Why won't you all just leave me alone? Why do you care? Because I know how it feels. Fuku shouted back, much to Kiba's shock. Fuku was also crying, but instead of running away or apologizing, she returned Kiba's furious look, with a determination in her eyes that Kiba would have never expected. I know what it feels like to live that kind of life, and I hate it. I hate constantly being afraid to go outside and talk to people. I want to leave my room and have fun with my friends. Fuku took a moment to catch her breath after screaming out her thoughts, while Kiba was just taken back. She'd never imagined Fuku would be so suddenly ... open with her. The last time she saw her face she'd ran away. And now she had her face out in the open to her, and was yelling, and expressing herself. What was even going on here? After catching her breath, Fuku continued speaking, a bit calmer this time. I've always been a big fan of your streams. At first, I just watched them because I wanted to know what was going on around the house. But pretty soon I actually just started to like watching your videos because of you. Why you were always so brash and unafraid. Always doing new things and trying new things. And even willing to get hurt and just brush it off. It was it felt like like I was living through you. You always seemed so alive that it felt like I was living this amazing exciting life right alongside you. When Erie and Go were busy, and I was stuck all alone in my room, I would watch your streams or your videos and I wouldn't feel alone. I was I am a huge fan of yours. Even if even if we haven't really met, or talked much, I know you. And I love you. That statement smacked Kiba in the face. She was used to heaping praise upon herself, or others playing along with her act, or even Izuku's unrelenting and unending love. But this was genuine, heartfelt praise. From someone other than Izuku. And I'm not the only one. Fuku fumbled a bit, as she pulled her phone out of her pocket. Take a look. Fuku held her phone up to Kiba's face. On it was a video from Kiba's channel, but it wasn't one that she made. Instead, Fu was shown, sitting very close to the camera, and the video was titled "We Need Your Help." Hi everyone. You may have noticed, but Kiba hasn't uploaded in a while, Fu said to the camera. Something bad happened. Dad collapsed from overwork. He's fine and he's recovering at home now, but you've probably seen how much property damage Kiba causes, and so Kiba started blaming herself for it. She thinks she's some sort of burden or parasite. None of us can reach her alone. So we need your help to show Kiba just how much we appreciate her. Leave a comment showing your application, and we'll put the best ones in a video, to show Kiba. Please. If you're going to show your support, do it now. Otherwise, this may be the last video on this channel. The video stopped, and immediately Fuku went on to the next video. This one is titled, Appreciation for Kiba, and it started showing a slideshow of different comments. Kiba, as a father of 5 myself, I can say for certain that it was not your fault alone. The work that goes into raising children is a lot for any parent, let alone one raising that many children. And as a father myself, I can say for certain that it was worth it. Despite any difficulties he may have had with your wildness, I'm 100% sure that he was overjoyed at watching you having fun and living your life to the fullest. And as someone who just wants to watch children having fun and smiling while my own kids are leaving the nest, I beg you, please don't stop living your life. I don't think there is anyone else on this platform that makes videos anywhere near as lively as yours are. I'm going through a rough spot in my life right now, and having something cute and lively to comfort me is really helping me get through it. Thank you for everything you've done for me, and please don't stop being cute, Lady Kiba. How on earth can you be a parasite if you give us all so much joy? These videos actually encouraged me to adopt a kid. Her name is Sayo, and she's 5, coming up on 6. And that was easily the best decision of my life. She's the light of my life now, and while it may seem a bit presumptuous, I think I'm pretty important in her life too. She loves your videos, and watching them together has become a part of our weekly routine. Thank you for everything you've done for us. And please don't stop smiling. I don't have many friends, so watching you all hanging out and having fun, it made me feel not so lonely anymore. Please keep on making videos. I beg you. My quirk gives my claw hands. I caused a lot of problems for my parents as a kid. I get ripping up the furniture and accidentally scratching them. One time I tried wrapping up my hands. When I showed my parents, they looked horrified, and immediately scolded me. They said that they'd take all the pain in the world if it meant making sure I was happy, and that the scars they carried were proof of their love for me. I don't know Caretaker as a person all that well, but I do know that he does love you all. And no good parent would be happy if their child isn't. Please don't give up, Kiba. We love you, Kiba. The messages went on and on, all showing Kiba heartfelt appreciation and love. Kiba didn't even realize when she started crying, she just couldn't look away from the video. She couldn't look away from the overwhelming support she was getting, as her heart felt like it was going to burst. The comments eventually came to an end, as did the video. Fuku put her phone back and looked at the now crying Kiba. People want you to keep going. To be happy. Because you make them happy. Izuku too. Everyone at the house agreed to help because they were worried about you. Please don't do what Izuku did, and ignore everyone. Kiba hesitated a moment, sniffing as she spoke. But what about Daddy? I don't want to cause trouble for him, but my quirk. Fuku went over and grabbed her shoulders. It's okay. People aren't mad at you, and you can improve. I know. It might be hard to believe that. Because there's this little voice in your head that's scared and keeps giving you bad advice. But you need to ignore it. Because if you listen to that voice, you will be miserable and unhappy for the rest of your life. That way you felt today, like you were missing out on life. Like everything is happening just outside your door or your window. That's how you'll feel for the rest of your life. I know how hard it can be. But I also know that it's so worth it, for everyone's sake. Kiba just looked at her, for a few moments, before her sobbing got even worse, as even more tears streamed down her eyes. Wait. Did I do this wrong? Fuku started to doubt herself. I'm Mof. Kiba wrapped her arms around her and hugged her tightly while sobbing into her hoodie. Hey, Kiba. I said no one was upset, and that's true, but please learn to restrain yourself a bit. Fuku groaned out quickly. It was a good thing that Kiba had not drunk much blood that day, otherwise, this would be painful. Kiba lightened up her hug, but kept sobbing just as hard. Fuku hesitantly wrapped her arms around Kiba and comforted her. Eventually, Kiba stopped crying, and the two separated. Thanks. Kiba smiled at Fuku, causing Fuku to nervously smile back. I was being foolish. Thank you for helping me. It wasn't just me, everyone was willing to help, Fuku told her sheepishly. Kiba nodded. I better give them all an extravagant thank you when tomorrow. Time just really shocked you'd do all this. It must have been hard. Fuku shyly smiled. Not as hard as you'd think. I'm normally so worried about what's going to happen to me. But this time. I was too worried about you to think about it. Kiba paused, and then gave Fuku a heartfelt, touched smile. What a wonderful sister you are. I am. Truly blessed. Izuku couldn't sleep. He was so worried about Kiba. Even after all they'd done today, she still hadn't come out. And now everything rested on Fuku's shoulders. Because what could he do? He had used up his credibility, with all the lies he told about his own health. It's almost funny, because of his attempt to do everything himself, he now had to rely on others. However, before Izuku could get into the self-deprecating rabbit hole, there was a knock on his bedroom door. Daddy? Can I come in? Asked Kiba's voice on the other side of the door. Izuku's eyes widened in shock, but his brain quickly caught up and responded. Yes. Come in. Almost immediately after he said that, Kiba burst through the door, and leaped onto his bed, before cuddling into his arm. I'm so dumb. Kiba groaned, hiding her face in his arm. Today sucked, and I did it all for nothing. Izuku paused for a moment, before taking in what she said, and realizing what had happened. The teen dad smiled down at her and started petting the top of her head. Good job, Fuku. It wasn't for nothing, Izuku told her. I'm glad you were thinking of others. You just overreacted. Kiba nodded and snuggled up closer to him. I know. From now on, I'll train even harder to hold back my strength. That's the spirit, Izuku told her. I'm just glad my little queen of eternal darkness is back to normal. Thanks, Daddy, Fuku said. Aren't you going to call me caretaker again? Izuku asked her. I'll do it tomorrow, Kiba muttered. I'm tired. XXXXXXXXXX. Is it on? Kiba said, as her audio came online, and she appeared on the screen. We're on. Fu said from over at his computer. It was a bright and sunny day. Kiba was outside, standing in front of a wooden table, with a huge array of meat dishes in front of her, and Junkin a few feet away, with the same table, and the same amount of meat dishes. And all the kids, along with Class 1A and Izuku, were behind the cameras, watching the whole thing. Hello, my loyal minions. And rejoice. Kiba said, immediately getting into the swing of things. You all showed your faith in me. And I would be a terrible queen to not reward such heartfelt loyalty. I have not made one of these messages in quite some time. This of course needs to be immediately corrected. Which is what we're here to do today. For you see, yesterday there was a meat-eating contest, which my rival Ken won. Naturally. Ken puffed out his chest arrogantly, with a huge smirk on his face. But I was under a truly wicked spell, that caused me to forget who I truly was and fall into despair. Kiba said dramatically. Fortunately, it was thanks to all of you, as well as my siblings, and the wonderful Fukunoko. The cameras pointed up at Fukunoko's window, and Fuku briefly gave a thumbs up, before retreating back into her room. I have regained my sense of self. Kiba shouted. And as such, I cannot allow the results of that contest to go uncontested. So, without further ado, Ken brought up his watch and slammed down on it, and in a green flash, he transformed into Wild Mutt. Let us begin. Chapter 62. Hooked. Now, Moneta knew he wasn't the best of influence. After all, if you asked anyone, himself included, how to describe him in one word, literally everyone would say, pervert. So being stuck in a building full of kids, not the best situation to be in. Because now, if he perved out in front of the kids, they would actually kill him. Not to mention he wouldn't get paid. Fortunately, he was held up in the office for the most part. Behind a desk, away from kids and away from the girls. Unfortunately, it was extremely boring work. Ugh. How did Midoriya do so much paperwork? Moneta threw his pen onto the desk, bringing his hands to his head so he could use his head balls as stress balls. After a few moments, Moneta calmed himself, and looked around, seeing if anyone was watching him at the time. Once he confirmed that he was alone, he quickly took out his phone. He'd been working for a few hours, he deserved a bit of a break. At least long enough for him to catch up with his gakas. Gaka games. Such bastions of fanservice and Lu art. All incorporated into a game with gameplay no one really cared about, as they spent their life savings away to send for someone that wasn't real and was specifically designed to suck your hard-earned cash right out of your wallet. So of course these were Moneta's favorite type of game. Now Moneta didn't spend too much cash on these games, but if he had the funds to spend a ridiculous amount of money on these games, he would. Without question. As Moneta opened one of the games, he suddenly heard a voice from his right. What are you playing? Moneta screamed, jumped in his seat, his head turned to see Netsu standing next to him, looking up at his phone. When did you get here? Not too long ago? Netsu shrugged. You were on your phone and didn't notice me. What you playing? It's a gacha game. Moneta had to focus very hard. And make sure he didn't slip and say anything that would cause the girls and Izuku to murder him. A gacha game? Netsu asked, looking at the phone. Yeah, it's a video game you can play on a phone or tablet, where you can pull characters and use them to play, I guess, Moneta answered. There are some where you can pull your favorite characters from your favorite anime or manga. Like Dragon Ball, One Piece, Pokemon, Flame Insignia. There are even some for characters from Marvel. And there's one game where you can pull real-life heroes called Strongest Heroes. And sometimes they have cool outfits. That sounds neat. Netsu looked excited. Can I try one? I mean, they're all technically free, so if you have a phone, Sure, why not? Moneta hoped that this would get this kid away from him. What's the worst that could happen? XXXXXXXX something is off, Izuku said as he laid in his bed, and looked at his phone. What's up? Okako asked as she was doing some cleaning around Izuku's room. The kid's phone usage. It's skyrocketing, Izuku said, looking at the kid's phone usage on his own phone. Izuku had gotten almost all of the kids' phones, for self-explanatory reasons. However, many of them didn't use them all that often. This was for a multitude of reasons. Mostly because most of the kids preferred to go outside rather than play with a phone. But also because they didn't really leave the house, so they always had access to a computer or TV, which was almost always better to use than a phone. But right now, it seemed like the kids had been on their phones for most of the day. And it was pretty much all the kids. The only ones who had kept their normal phone usage were Kota, Atiko, Mew, Nara, and Yami. Kai technically also kept his normal phone usage, but he didn't have a phone, so that didn't really count. That's weird. These kids normally like to go outside more. Okako pointed out, with a frown. I know. Which is good, because playing outside with friends is much healthier than being on your phone constantly. Izuku said, slightly worried at these strange results. I wonder why, and then suddenly, he got his answer in the form of a payment request notification. Shraku is requesting a 10,000 yen purchase on Genshin Impact. Oh no. Izuku's eyes widened, as he started to see where this was going. And the continued notifications on his phone confirmed his suspicion. Netsu is requesting a 10,000 yen purchase on Dokkan Battle. Kiba is requesting a 13,000 yen purchase on Dragalia Lost. Is requesting a 10,000 yen purchase on Pokemon Masters X. Sanson is requesting a 10,000 yen purchase on One Piece Bounty Rush. Erie is requesting a 1,000 yen purchase on Pokemon Masters X. Yonda is requesting 5,000 yen purchase on Pokemon Masters X. Kyoko is requesting a 8,000 yen purchase on Pokemon Masters X. Fu is requesting a 1,000 yen purchase on Dragalia Lost. Izuku then quickly looked at the records on the kid's phone and looked at their recently downloaded apps. Okako, get everyone here. Immediately. XXXXXXXX. After a few minutes, Okako, along with Ida, Momo, and Inko had gathered all the kids but Nara, Yami, Atiko, Mew, Kei, and Kota, who were all now standing in his room. Fukinoko was even there, albeit hidden behind her hoodie, and standing behind Erie, and Fu already seemed to know what this was about and looked slightly ashamed. So I've noticed from your phone usage, and the payment request, that you all got addicted to gacha games, Izuku said, looking from his bed, down upon all the children. We're not addicted. Kiba protested. Kiba, you downloaded 8 gachas and requested a total of 85,000 yen to spend on these games. Izuku deadpanned. Kiba cringed a bit, before looking away. Okay. Maybe I asked for a bit much. And you're not the only one. Shraku, you downloaded 10 games. And requested 95,000 yen to spend on them. Izuku continued rattling off the data. And Fu, you downloaded 12. Although you did only request 9,000 yen. Fu couldn't look Izuku in the eye. Me and Kyozai really like the feeling when we get what we want in the games. I know it's a problem, but I can't stop. I'm sorry, Daddy, but they all just look so pretty. Shraku apologized. You're not wrong, Fuku admitted bashfully. It's not that big of a problem, Ken said. We're rich, right? Yes, we have an abundance of money. Izuku sighed. But running this place also takes a large amount of money, so if there is an emergency, it's better we use the money on that than wasting it on games like these. Trust me, I play Strongest Heroes. It was problematic. He spent far too much money on that game. I almost had to get a second job just to keep us afloat. Inko sighed as she recalled Izuku's gacha period. You can end up spending your entire life savings on these games, and wasting all of your time on them, Izuku told the kids, as he purposely ignored, addressing what his mother just said. Which is why we're gonna establish some rules. All you. Ken and Netsu groaned, knowing they likely wouldn't like this. Firstly, you can only spend 4 hours a day on these games, Izuku told them. And remember, I see your phone usage, I will know if you go over that amount. Secondly, if you're going to spend money on these games, you can only spend your own money. Meaning that, now, you're all going to have to earn an allowance. Huh? The kids looked at him with a mix of shock and confusion. An allowance? You'll still be able to ask for things, and I'll spend my own money on those. But if you want to ask for things like candy, or money to spend on gacha games, you'll have to earn that money yourself. Izuku explained. I'll leave the ways you can do this up to your imagination. However, Shraku, Fu, you both will already be getting an allowance, seeing as you both contribute to the house's income with your quirks. What? How is that fair? Ken objected. It's not, Izuku said. But this is to help prepare you for life. And as most of you are aware, life isn't fair. Especially when it comes to quirks. Shraku and Fu both were born with abilities that allow them to naturally contribute to the house's income. Is it fair to just use them to make money and not give them a portion of that money? No. So they get money from that. The rest of you will have to find a way to earn money like you would in real life. And fantastic strategy. If they earn their own money, they will have a greater appreciation of it. Ida nodded in approval. Not only that, but much like in real life, you'll need to learn how to budget. Meaning you'll only be allowed to spend a certain amount of your allowance on these games. Izuku told them. What? Shouted a few kids, who looked very upset at this revelation. I don't want you going into the real world, and thinking you can spend your entire paycheck on things like this, Izuku told them. You'll have to learn how to balance how much you can spend on games, and how much you'll have to spend on other, more important things. So you can only spend a certain % of your allowance. Every week you'll come to me, and you'll tell me how much money you have. Then we'll do the math together, and I'll tell you how much you can spend on these games, and the rest you'll have to save unless you want to spend it on other things. All you. Many of the kids looked disappointed at this news, some of them more than others. Look at this way, the more you save, the more money you'll have next week, meaning you'll get to spend more than last week, Izuku told them. And this will also teach you to only spend on the banners that you really want something from. It may seem restrictive, but trust me, it'll save you a lot of struggling later on in your lives. So how are we supposed to earn money? We're not old enough to get jobs? Ken asked in a frustrated tone. Well, let's talk about that, Izuku said. XXXXXXXXX hello, my wonderful viewers. And as you may have noticed, I have created a second channel. Kiba was currently streaming in her bedroom, getting ready to play Black Essence 2, as she addresses her audience. What's this? A second channel? But why? Lady Kiba, please tell us why? Wait a minute, is there super chat here? I know many of you are wondering for what purpose does this secondary channel exist, and the reason is quite simple. Kiba said haughtily. You see my loyal minions, I have recently discovered the existence of gacha games. Oh no. Lady Kiba don't. It's a trap. Oh, that's why there's a super chat. However, despite these games being free, they are absolutely not free. And the in-game resources they give you in-game are simply not enough. As such, I need to pour money into these games to get what I want. Kiba explained. Aren't you rich? Don't you guys have lots of money? Yes, we have lots of money. However, Caretaker wants us to earn money for things like this. As such, I need all of your assistance. Kiba continued. Not just for myself, but I also need to support my siblings. Fu and Shraku especially, as they are now charging me for their services because of their crippling gambling addictions. Really? Fu has a gacha addiction? Fu. Emotionless. Blank stare, Fu? Yes, he plays far too many of them for his own good. Kiba shook her head in disapproval. I'm not proud of it. But I can't stop. Fu admitted. It's okay, Fu. I have that problem too. Same. 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 Now as for why this is on a separate channel. It's because when I make videos instead of streams, I can actually get ad revenue. Kiba explained. Because my previous channel is demonetized, due to all the blood and gore. As such, this channel will only contain non-bloody things. Like games. Suddenly, Kiba got a notification. Oh. The first super chat donation. 5,000 yen. Thank you very much. And you said Fu thought of this idea, didn't he? How did you know? Man, Fu really wants that money. Are they insinuating that Lady Kiba couldn't have come up with this on her own? Queen Crimson, all you. Not blood. Oh well, Kiba's cute, enough to stay around. Well, regardless. On top of that, we also have where you can support us. But of course, you will be rewarded for your donations. You may even get the chance to suggest something we may do in a video. Kiba suggested. As well as various other rewards. We also plan on releasing merchandise. Wow, they really want their GAC money. Buying all of it, immediately. Finally. Give me. I want it. I want it now. I value all of your support. None of you have to donate, but if you happen to have money to spare, then feel free to make an offering. Kiba said. And immediately after that, the donations poured in, securing their gambling addictions for a while longer. Izuku looked at all of the kids' phone usages once more, glad to see that it was down once, again. His rules had various effects on the children. For Netsu, Sansen, Kyaku, and Yonda, it resulted in them basically going back to normal. Only casually playing the games. And for Kiba, Fu, Ken, and Shraku, it caused quite a few changes as they were now looking for money to spend. Well, not so much Kiba. Kiba got her money very easily, and so basically she would enlist people to work for her, and they pay them. Most notably Ken, Shraku, and Fu. Fu and Shraku also did already have quite a bit of income, but seeing as they had it the worst when it came to addictions, they were pretty greedy when it came to money. Although Shraku only actually charged Kiba for clothing, because she knew Kiba had the money to spend. That and Kiba had found that paying for her clothes actually made it satisfying. This had also inspired Shraku to work even harder on making her clothes, saying that one day she would have so much money, she wouldn't need to worry about how much she spent on gakas, which was good. Fukunoko was in between the two groups. She spent most of her time in her room, so there was not much stopping her from continuing to play the games for a while, but she didn't really have a way to get income. Well, at least that was the case. A tea party? Fuku panicked behind her door. That's right. And this is my invitation to you. Kiba proclaimed from outside. Who else is coming? Fuku asked. Maybe if it's just a few people, like Erie and well, it's Erie, Fu, Yonda, Kyaku, and Nara, Momo, and Mina. Kiba said. Nope. Too many people. Fuku refused. I can't do it. Nope. Now that I know how miserable your lifestyle is, I cannot allow you to simply sit and rot in that room. Kiba proclaimed. You're going. I'm not taking no for an answer. Yep. Are you gonna break down my door? Fuku asked fearfully. Nope. But if you come to the tea party, I'll give you 3,000 yen. Kiba offered. Fuku paused, before taking out her phone, and looked at Pokemon Masters X. On one hand, it's super scary. On the other Lily looks really cute in that dress. As Fuku was thinking this over, Kiba gave an additional offer. And, you can sit between me and Erie. Don't worry. Nothing bad could happen with the two of us at your side. Kiba said proudly. There were a few moments of silence before Fuku gave her response. When is the tea party? Chapter 63. Shy baking. Phew. And done. Sato whipped his forehead with a sweat rag, as he looked down at his work. He had just finished seasoning and preparing meat for tomorrow's dinner. Now all he had to do was put it in the fridge, and leave it to marinate for a while. Yappy. Sato suddenly heard a high-pitched voice from behind him. He turned around and saw Fuku standing there in her hoodie, with her face covered, looking like a deer in the headlights, and standing just stiffly. "Oh hey. I didn't hear you walk in." Sato greeted the shy girl as gently as possible, trying not to spook her, while also maintaining his distance, in case her quirk activated. Hi, Fuku said tentatively. I'm sorry for interrupting. I'll leave now." "Hey, wait a second." Sato called out, causing her to freeze. "You don't have to leave, I was just finishing up here." "It's fine," Fuku said. It's not too important." Fuku nervously shuffled her feet, looking down at the floor with a dejected look on her face. So Sato wasn't gonna let that stand. "Looks pretty important to me," Sato told her. "I heard you liked cooking. Were you trying to cook something for your friends?" Fuku flinched at having her intentions revealed, and kept looking away from the muscled teen. Why yes. Erie. Kiba, Kyaku and I are gonna have a sleepover in a few hours, and I wanted to make some sweets. I haven't really talked to Kyaku much before. But she's Erie and's friend, so I want to be friends with her too. And I really want to make a good first impression. Sato gave the girl a bittersweet smile. On one hand, this girl was adorable. On the other hand, this girl was an anxiety-filled mess, for the most depressing reason. But he could help her right now. Even if just a tiny bit. "Hey, why don't I help you out?" Sato offered. "Huh?" Fuku jumped back in surprise, looking at him curiously. Why would you want to help me?" "Well, that's kind of my job here, kid. It's what your dad is paying us for." Sato chuckled. "And it sounds like fun. I love baking. They don't call me the Sugarman for nothing, kid. I'll show you a whole new world of sweets." Fuku looked at him nervously, judging his body language and his facial expression, before looking away to silently mull over the offer. "Oh okay," Fuku said almost too quietly for Sato to hear. What do you want to make?" XXXXXXXXXXMMMM. "Exquisite," Kiba complimented as she bit down on a freshly baked cookie. The 5 girls sat in Kiba's room, sitting around a table, enjoying the various sweets and tea set up there. There were some chocolate chip cookies, mochi, brownies, dorayaki, melon pan, cinnamon buns, and even a small cake, and of course some candy apples. "It's snowy," said as she had a mouth stuffed with brownies. "This is amazing, Fuku," Erie praised as she enjoyed a candy apple with a smile on her face. Oh, no one could even tell what Kyaku was saying, due to the sheer amount of sweets stuffed into her mouth at the moment. I really didn't do much," Fuku said, her face red as a tomato. "That big guy I think his name is Sato, he was the one who did most of the work. It appears his sweets are even better than his regular meals. I must pay my compliments to him later," Kiba proclaimed, before looking at Fuku. "But we also must pay our compliments to you too, Fuku. After all, not too long ago, you wouldn't even allow and the rest of us in your room. Now you're going up to people you only barely know, and asking them for assistance. Such growth should be congratulated. Come, everyone. It's time for congratulatory head pats." Fuku cried, as all her friends descended upon her, giving her the human contact she both hated and secretly loved. XXXXXXXXXX. The next night, Sato was also in the kitchen, cleaning up after preparing a meal. Sato heard a familiar voice coming from behind. He looked at the entrance of the kitchen and saw Fuku peeking in from the outside of the door frame. "Oh, Fukunoko. I hope you and the others enjoyed the sweets," Sato said. "Why yes," Fuku said. "They were very good. It's just ... see can you ... no it's dumb. I'm sorry for bothering you. You want me to teach you?" Sato guessed. "Ah." Fuku shouted like she was being stuck after her intentions were found out. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I know it would be a waste of your time. After you helped me last night I'm still asking for more. I'm sorry. I'll go back to my room. You'll never see me again. Kid." Sato gave her that same smile he gave her last night. "I'd be more than happy to teach you. So calm down." Why? Fuku asked, looking away once again. "Why you're being nice to someone like me? I don't get it. I kind of understand why the people who live here are nice to me. This place is made for people like us. But you're not from here. Kid. People are like apples. They're born just normal, regular apples. Pretty regular and average. But they can turn into a lot of things," Sato told her. "Midoriya is like a candy apple. He's sweet, and he makes people happy. But you're the man that hurt you. He was like a rotten apple. Terrible, disgusting, and he should just go in the trash. I like to think of myself as a candy apple. So naturally, I have to do what I can when someone asks me for help. Right? I mean, that's the whole reason I wanna become a hero." Fuku stayed silent for a few moments, before speaking up. "Is that why you're helping a rotten apple like me? Oh you, kid." Sato got down on his knee and looked the girl in the eye. "You're not rotten, not even close. Then why are you standing so far away?" Fuku asked despondently. Sato cringed, as he realized this wasn't a good look. He couldn't act like he wasn't afraid of her quirk going off. Especially when he was stuck in a room with her. But that wasn't her fault. "Listen, I'm not gonna lie, kid. Your quirk is super scary," Sato admitted. "But that's not your fault. Tell me, did you choose your quirk?" "No." Fuku answered immediately. "I would never choose this quirk." "Then it's not your fault," Sato told her. "A person can't be judged by the things forced on them, but how they respond to them. When you got your quirk, did you ever want to use it on someone?" "No. No. That would be cruel," Fuku answered, looking sadly at the ground. "Even doing that to rotten apples would be mean. And that's why you're definitely not rotten," Sato explained. "Some people get unlucky, like you did, with their quirks. They go through hardships like you did, but they think that that is an excuse to hurt people. That because they were hurt, it gives them the right to hurt others. And that's how regular apples turn rotten, but didn't make that decision. You never meant to hurt anyone, and that's what makes you sweet." Fuku looked at him, stunned, before looking away with an intense blush on her face. I have to go." The girl then immediately bolted out of the room, and Sato heard her quirk go off in the cafeteria. Uh-oh. Sato waited for a moment, and then gave a sigh of relief when he didn't hear any screams. And so after calling Izuku to tell him to make sure everyone steered clear of the cafeteria for a bit, Sato called Momo to ask her how to set up a lesson plan. "New moves ga!" Kiba cried as she was thrown into the wall of the training room. Before Kiba could even try to get up, a huge black hand, belonging to Dark Shadow, grabbed her and threw her into the ceiling. Oh lord. Lady Kiba is getting stomped. Poor Lady Kiba. That UA student is insane. Kiba was currently streaming a fight between herself and Tokoyami, Dark Shadow. Or rather, her getting beat by Tokoyami, Dark Shadow. The room was almost completely dark, with only very dim lights, and the door was also shut, meaning that Dark Shadow was nearly at full power. Tokoyami considered this to be good training for both of them. As Kiba needed more fight experience, and he needed more training on how to restrain Dark Shadow. Of course, he wasn't doing a very good job of it. Dark Shadow roared, as he smashed Kiba around the room. Eventually, Kiba was smashed down into the floor, and pinned by Dark Shadow's huge mass. Ah! Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr Avail. Dark Shadow was just too strong. "Alright, that's enough," said Izuku over the speakers in the training room. Immediately, the lights turned on, and the door opened, revealing Netsu on the other side. Netsu then shot out a flamethrower attack at Dark Shadow, causing it to shrink very quickly. Dark Shadow cried as it tried to block the attack, to no avail, as it shrunk more and more. Eventually, Dark Shadow went back to normal size, and Netsu stopped his assault. "Thank you," Tokoyami said to Netsu, as he was recovering from Dark Shadow's full power before he turned to Kiba. "I apologize, I still have issues controlling Dark Shadow's full capabilities. He has a hard time controlling that. Dude. Imagine, if that got unleashed in the city. Absolutely terrifying. Glad he's not a villain. Train harder, please." "Well, at least we know they have a weakness. Endeavor would stomp. HMPH. Kiba pouted, as she pulled herself off the ground, and dusted herself off. "Don't apologize. You're still learning. And so am I. I have still yet to tap into my full potential. If I had, I would have easily defeated you." Kiba said all of this in a tone that displayed how sour she was at her loss. Sore loser Kiba is so precious. I love her. Even when losing, Lady Kiba looked elegant. "Don't worry, my queen. Just wait until your body grows larger." Kiba got up, and walked over to the camera, turning off night vision, and addressing her audience. "That will be all for today, my minions. I will see you at a later time. XXXXXXXXX." After getting treated at the infirmary, Kiba wandered around the backyard, with a pout on her face. "That cursed shadow is too strong," Kiba lamented. "I must find a way to become more powerful. But how? I'm already training as much as I can without burning myself out." As Kiba pondered this conundrum, she saw Kirishima and Ojiro sparring in the court. There was a ring around them on the floor, so it appeared that whoever exited the ring would lose. The Tail Man versus the one with enhanced durability. This will be a rather simple match, Kiba decided. How did Tail Man even make it into U.A with a quirk like his? Deciding to watch out of curiosity, Kiba stood nearby and viewed the fight. Kirishima charged forward, with his arm and fist hardened, trying to punch Ojiro. Ojiro used his tail, and pushed himself into the air, flipping over Kirishima and landing behind him, before sweeping around with his tail. Kirishima held up his arm and guarded against the tail sweep, and once it was blocked, Ojiro jumped backward to put distance between them. The hardening hero then jumped up and tried to punch Ojiro, but Ojiro swerved out of the way, jumped up behind Kirishima, spun around, and then smacked the fake redhead in the back, flinging him out of the ring. "Nani?" Kiba thought in bewilderment. Kirishima tumbled onto the ground outside the ring, eventually coming to a stop on his back. "Crap. You okay?" Ojiro asked, as he ran out of the ring, and offered his hand to his classmate. "Yeah. I'm fine." Kirishima flashed his classmate a sharp-toothed grin, and took his hand, allowing Ojiro to pull him up. "You there?" Kiba came running and catching both of their attention. "Oh, Lady Kiba." Kirishima smiled at her. "Good to see you out and about again." Kiba stopped for a moment to smile back at Kirishima. "It's good to be back, but now. Tailed one, explain yourself." "Huh?" Ojiro gave her a confused look. "You not only managed to get into U.A but also managed to defeat someone whose quirk allowed them to withstand my blows. All of this despite your simplistic quirk," Kiba said, not wanting to directly insult his quirk. "Well, my tail is actually a lot stronger than it looks," Ojiro explained. "But, The main reason is because I practice martial arts. Martial arts? Kiba asked, tilting her head. Yeah, it's basically learning how to fight hand to hand or I guess in my case, hand and tail to hand, Ojiro explained sheepishly. It can be pretty essential for people who have to fight hand to hand with an opponent that's just as strong, or even stronger than you. Opponents that's just as strong, or even stronger than you. Those words were repeated in Kiba's head, as an idea formed in her head. If that's the case, then teach me these martial arts, Kiba demanded. Oh. Ojiro was taken aback by this sudden request. I mean, I guess, it'll be useful. What's the worst that could happen? XXXXXXXXXXXX I'm very sorry, Kiba said as he gave an apologetic bow to Ojiro, who was covered in bandages, and laid up in a bed in the infirmary. How did this even happen? Izuku asked as he stood in the infirmary with his daughter. He'd finally felt well enough to stand again, and now this happened. Well you see we ran out of punching bags, so I thought that if we were careful she could spar with me, Ojiro said. That did not turn out so well. Izuku couldn't help but facepalm internally. Okay, never do that again. If you're going to continue teaching her, then you'll either have to use the restraints made for her or wait for the advanced training dummy replacement that can actually withstand Kiba's power. What happened to the old one? Kiba asked. Santon melted it, Izuku answered, before turning back to Ojiro. Thank you for trying to teach her though. I think martial arts could really help her. Although if you don't want to continue I'd understand. No, I think I'll continue. Once I've recovered. And we get that training dummy, Ojiro said. Very good, wise instructor. I'll take even greater care not to break you next time, Kiba said with blazing determination in her eyes. Please do, Izuku and Ojiro said at the same time. Alright, maybe in retrospect I shouldn't have focused this on Fuku and Kiba, after an arc that focused very heavily on Fuku and Kiba. I promise we'll see more of the kids in the next chapter. Also, I actually do have something planned. A field day with 1A and the kids, with lots of competitions and events. I'm saving it for the end of their visit. So it's a bit of a ways away. But I think you guys will really enjoy it. Speaking of enjoying it, I think I kind of realize why this fic is so popular. It's because it's a power fantasy. My own power fantasy. Normally when one thinks of a power fantasy, they think of the average isekai with an overpowered protagonist, who gets lots of women, men and beats up everyone who disagrees with them. But that was never my fantasy. I never wanted to be a god, although superpowers would be neat, not gonna lie, or get tons of girlfriends, boyfriends, or to take down everyone who disagrees with me. All I ever really wanted was to not feel so alone. Which is why I made this a slice of life. Because that genre is the power fantasy of lonely people. My childhood had a lot of flaws, loneliness being the top one, and as such, this fic is a power fantasy, in that it is the life I wish I had. A childhood surrounded by people who understand you, with an ever-present caretaker who is always doing their best for you. And where all conflicts sort themselves super quickly. And those conflicts are necessary for a power fantasy. Because triumph can only be found in overcoming obstacles, which is what a lot of isekai lack nowadays. But the obstacles aren't impossible, or super immense, or often even physical. They're personal, and when a character goes through a personal struggle, that is when you can most relate to them. I think maybe a lot of people share my desire for this type of power fantasy. The fantasy of power fantasy. The fantasy of a perfect childhood, with cool superpowers. And that's why I think this fic is so popular. Because it fulfills a type of power fantasy most other stories don't. Yes, there are other Dadzaku stories out there, but most of them focus on Izuku with a single kid or two kids. And most of them focus on the relationship between parent and child, rather than the relationships between the children and each other. Maybe I'm insane. Who knows? Is that why you guys like this fic so much? Or is there another reason? Please let me know. Anyway, that will be all for now. Please review and have a nice day.